Chapter 1409. The battle was almost one-sided. Even Heavenly Venerate Li Tian couldn't hold on for too long. This was just the beginning, and they were already at a disadvantage. If this continued, they would lose without a doubt. Stop struggling. With your strength, you will lose without a doubt. Heavenly Venerate Zhihong and the others were full of joy. They were ready to see an upper-level Heavenly Venerate die in their hands. Moreover, it was an expert from an opposing force. How could they not feel happy? Heavenly Venerate Li Tian and the others had grave expressions. If this continued, they would really lose. At this time, a green divine light bloomed in all directions. Immediately, a huge phantom of a giant tree appeared in the void, almost enveloping a large area of the god realm of the three realms. Immediately after, beams of green light enveloped their bodies, making them feel full of vitality, and their condition immediately reached its peak. Everyone looked over and found that the one who used this move was actually Yi Tianyun. Now, Yi Tianyun had already changed into the Voodoo Wood Divine Set, and the healing effects were almost fully activated. Perhaps a certain amount of combat power would be sacrificed, but the key was to protect everyone and prolong the battle. Once the Voodoo Wood Divine Set was activated, it was as if the entire god realm of the three realms was filled with vitality. However, only the people of the god realm of the three realms benefited. Invaders wouldn't enjoy this vitality. The powerful vitality shocked everyone. Wouldn't this mean that they were in a super strong healing state? The answer was very obvious. The cultivators who were previously injured were now recovering rapidly. Even if their limbs were broken, they could regenerate extremely quickly. It looked very terrifying. This could greatly increase the healing ability, so the effect naturally wouldn't be too bad. For example, on Heavenly Venerate Li's side, his wounds were rapidly recovering, and his original injuries were quickly healed. Heavenly Venerate Sword Ruler and the others were the same. They quickly recovered, and their mental state was instantly raised to the extreme. What a strong healing ability! Heavenly Venerate Sword Ruler and the others gasped. They had seen people with strong healing abilities, but rarely had they seen people who could enhance their healing effects. Moreover, the enhancement effect was very shocking, and the range was extremely terrifying. It could be said that it covered the entire battlefield. It could even affect people on their side, as long as their heads weren't blown up and their souls were destroyed. The injuries on his body would quickly recover. If they couldn't recover in a short time, they could quickly recover by hiding a little further away. This kind of effect was something they had never seen before. The one who created this miracle was their junior brother. To the people of the three realms, Yi Tianyun was an omnipotent god. Again. Heavenly Lord's strength laughed heartily. As if he had gone mad, he punched forward fiercely. Every punch landed on flesh with astonishing force. As for the attacks of Heavenly Sovereign Nine Vast and the others, it could be said that they were completely disregarded. Although they suffered significant injuries when they struck them, with the help of this terrifying healing ability, they recovered very quickly. It could be said that the speed at which he recovered was faster than the injuries he suffered. He was only slightly injured, but he immediately recovered. He could be said to have an undying body. Kill! Celestial Venerable Sword C unleashed his full strength, killing his way into the midst of the enemies in a single breath. With a shocking aura, he slashed horizontally across the waist, immediately beheading a Celestial Venerable. A terrifying power erupted from him without any scruples. This was all thanks to the fact that he wasn't afraid of getting injured. Heavenly Venerate Dragon Cry, who already had an astonishing healing ability, became even crazier. With the support of the Wizard Wood Divine Set, his heaven-defying healing ability became even stronger. As long as he suffered an injury, even if it was a severed arm or a leg, he could recover in the blink of an eye. It made people suspect whether or not he chopped a fake arm. Of course, his arm would not be chopped off. It was just that under the enhancement of the healing ability, his offensive became extremely terrifying. It was as if he did not care for his life, killing into the midst of celestial venerates. Under their tyranny, he actually killed 2 middle-level celestial venerates in a row. The originally extremely valuable middle-level celestial venerates were killed consecutively today, making them endlessly furious. What is this guy's background? Just what move is this, to be so heaven-defying? Heavenly Sovereign 9 Vast and the others were alarmed and furious. Seeing Tianyun continuously displaying his healing ability, making heavenly venerable strength and the others seemingly become undying bodies. Under this kind of state, the power that erupted was even more astonishing. For example, they were usually very cautious when fighting, afraid of getting injured. Once they were seriously injured, it would affect their combat strength. Now that they did not have this aspect to worry about, they kept charging over crazily. On the other hand, they did not dare to get injured. Even if they had decent medicinal pills, they could not recover immediately. No matter what background he has, kill him first. Empyrean Red Soaring immediately gave the order, making the other Empyreans ignore Empyrean Swordsi They should eliminate Tianyun first before talking. As long as they eliminated Tianyun, there would not be this super strong healing ability anymore. Yes. Immediately, there were 7 Empyreans rushing over towards Tianyun's side. So many Empyreans rushing over all at once, they really thought highly of him enough. Oh, 7 Empyreans came all at once. Truly a pile of fat lambs coming over. Tianyun grinned. He did that just now just to reduce the casualties. It did not mean that he did not have combat strength. Kill. 7 Empyreans rushed over, making everyone's hearts tremble. They wanted to help Tianyun, but there was nothing they could do. Regardless of whether it was speed or power, they were left behind by a great deal. Under this kind of situation, how could they still help? Little junior brother. The 3 senior brothers' eyes turned intent, wanting to turn around and go help, but how could the others go and help? Weren't you fighting quite arrogantly just now? Continue to fight with us. Empyrean 9 Hong and the others laughed loudly and quickly surrounded, blocking Empyrean Li firmly, not letting him go and help. Empyrean Dragon Cry and the others were the same. They were quickly blocked, not letting them go and help no matter what. When the 7 of them came over, Tianyun suddenly disappeared on the spot. Before they came back to their senses, an extreme green light pierced through the head of one of them, directly blasting him into pieces. At this time, the astral divine spear in Tianyun's hand had already turned into a green long spear, condensing a dazzling green light. Even if it was wood attribute, the power was still shocking. Especially under the powerful title's power, Tianyun's superimposed power was already as high as 182 times the damage, and this did not include the increase in power in the martial arts aspect. In front of him, middle-level Empyreans were like slaughtering chickens and dogs. One move to kill, simple to the extreme. The key was that he was not afraid of getting injured. He directly rushed over, waved the astral divine spear in his hand, and slashed horizontally across the waist. The long spear in his hand was like a sharp sword. Even the body of the spear could be cut into 2 at the waist. Chapter 14:10. After Tianyun consecutively cut down 2 middle-level heavenly venerables, they came to their senses. They had encountered a monster who was not so easy to deal with. Not only was he monstrous enough, but he was also a madman. Waving the star divine spear in his hand, he attacked with no regard for his life. The key was that everything was so strange. Just as he was about to fight, he disappeared in the next moment. When he appeared again, another middle-level heavenly venerables had fallen. They had no idea how Tianyun had teleported over, and they didn't feel it at all. Even the divine light that enveloped Tianyun disappeared. Originally, under the illumination of this divine light, there was no place to hide, but now there was a short blank time, which shocked them. Ding! Successfully killed middle-level heavenly venerables, early stage, obtained experience. Ding! Successfully killed middle-level heavenly venerables, middle stage, obtained experience. Tianyun reaped their lives in a frenzy. Only now did they truly realize that Heavenly Venerable's Sword Judge and Heavenly Venerable's Long Ming were actually just here to go through the motions. The truly heaven-defying one was still Tianyun himself. By the time they reacted, more than half of the Heavenly Venerables sent over were already dead. In the blink of an eye, 4 middle-level Heavenly Venerables were gone. This kind of loss was equivalent to losing an arm. On the contrary, Tianyun became more and more ferocious as he killed, reaping their lives almost like he was cutting melons and vegetables. The Heavenly Venerables who originally wanted to chase after Tianyun turned and fled. How could they chase after him crazily like before? Now it was too late to escape. Imagine so many middle-level Heavenly Venerables being chased around by one person, it was enough to prove how strange it was. Since you're here, don't run anymore. Fight this battle before you leave. Tianyun's figure flickered and arrived in front of the middle-level Heavenly Venerables. He swept his long spear over, and the sharp green light turned into a sharp spear light that strangled the middle-level Heavenly Venerables. I'll fight it out with you. This middle-level Heavenly Venerable's eyes turned red. He knew that he had no way of avoiding this. He could only fight to the death with Tianyun. A life for a life, let's see who can withstand it. A middle-level Empyrean released his 2 Empyrean spirit treasures, burning them with their greatest strength, turning them into sharp beams of light that shot out. Tianyun completely ignored him, continuing to clash head-on with this middle-level Empyrean. He didn't even dodge, using his physical body to block. Boom! The 2 of them clashed head-on. A middle Empyrean was blasted apart by a single spear strike, but Tianyun's body was also riddled with several holes, as well as several wounds so deep that bones could be seen. Before the middle-level Empyrean lost consciousness, he had thought that he could repel Tianyun. But now it seemed that he had been too naive. Tianyun wasn't afraid of getting injured at all. Instead, he took it head-on. Immediately, the wounds on Tianyun's body began to heal. In the blink of an eye, they were completely healed. There was not a single gap left. Under the state of transforming into voodoo wood god, healing ability increased by 500 times. Directly one-shotting other Empyrean's recovery ability, even Empyrean Long Ming might not have such an effect. After everyone saw it, they immediately sucked in a cold breath. As long as it could not directly crush Tianyun's soul, then he could revive. The terrifying power made their hearts tremble incomparably. How could they still dare to continue staying here? They turned tail and ran. Tianyun was considered an undying body now. Who still dared to clash head-on with him? Clashing head-on with him might as well clash head-on with Empyrean Swordsea they all. At least, they wouldn't be so freakish. His movements were strange, his body's healing ability super strong, and his own strength was also extremely tyrannical. Under such circumstances, what was there to still fight? Damn it, what background does that guy have? So monstrous. At the same time that Empyrean 9 Vast they all were fighting crazily with Empyrean Li, they observed Tianyun's side, their hearts immediately turning cold. Originally thought that so many Empyreans rushing over, they could exterminate the other party. Now, the people they sent over were exterminated, and it was even so easily. Ha, this is our little junior brother, a very powerful little junior brother. Empyrean Li and the others laughed loudly. One had to say that Tianyun gave them a huge surprise. Not only was his own strength extremely powerful, but it seemed to be a lot more powerful than before. They did not know how Tianyun did it, but the stronger their junior brother was, the better. Originally, they thought that it would be a battle to the death. Who knew that Tianyun created a miracle, making them all extremely shocked. Especially with his current strength, they felt that he did not even need their help, and Tianyun could protect the divine realm of the 3 realms. They thought so, but Tianyun would not think so. It was very likely that an unexpected situation would occur. Things that could reduce the damage to the minimum, he definitely had to do it. Everything had to be done a little more perfectly. Absolutely no accidents were allowed. Hence, he would rather have a little more powerhouses holding down the fort than to hold down the fort alone, unless he had absolute strength. For example, if his cultivation reached the level of Empyrean, then he would not ask for external help. It was different now. If the Empyreans spread out, then it would be different. Just relying on numerous grand arrays could not stop them at all. Don't tangle with them anymore, disperse for me, and destroy the divine realm of the three realms. Empyrean 9 Hung shouted in exasperation. This time, he changed tactics again, and did not tangle with them anymore. Even if they could not exterminate Yi Tianyun, they had to at least destroy the divine realm of the three realms. Immediately, the other Empyreans attacked other places one after another, damaging a little bit counted. Following that, they spread out in all directions in the form of wandering. But the more they did so, the one who suffered instead was themselves. Yi Tianyun's gaze turned cold, continuing to shift over, intercepting in front of those Empyreans, and smashing fiercely. If you want to destroy my power, then give me your life. Stop them. Region Master Glaze and the rest immediately surrounded over. What they used was not their own strength, but mobilized the grand arrays that had long been set up, surrounding from all directions, wanting to trap these Empyreans. They had no way of fighting with Empyreans, but it did not mean that they could not trap them. The grand array that was set up previously was prepared for them. Even if it was just blocking for a short while, it was already sufficient. For a bunch of Divine Lord cultivation powerhouses to be able to stop a middle-level Empyrean, it was already astonishing enough. Damn it, these trash actually still have such a grand array. There were quite a few middle-level Empyreans who were really trapped under these densely packed grand arrays. This instant being trapped, Yi Tianyun successfully rushed over, a spear piercing over, killing this middle-level Empyrean. Chapter 14:11. Under the frenzy of Yi Tianyun and the others, many Empyreans were wiped out one after another. Although they were only trapped for a short while, it was enough time for powerhouses to exchange blows. They could arrive in front of them in an instant and kill them in one fell swoop. Originally, the speed of wiping them out should not be so fast, but Heavenly Venerable Sword C and the others went all out. As long as they protected their souls, they did not have to worry about their bodies being damaged at all. They completely let them attack. After being attacked, they would recover immediately, so they had a great advantage in fighting. They needed to dodge when fighting the opponent, but the opponent could not be bothered to fight them, so they directly clashed head-on. All of a sudden, the 16 Empyreans were reduced to less than 7, 2 of which were even being held back by Heavenly Venerable Strength. This meant that there were only 5 middle-level Empyreans left, which meant that the threat was greatly reduced. It could even be said that there was no danger at all. With Yi Tianyun's heaven-defying teleportation ability, they could not run far before they were intercepted by him. Use Cooling Divine Stone. Teleport. Yi Tianyun's tidal teleportation had a cooldown time limit, so he had to use Cooling Divine Stone. He kept buying a large pile in the shop and smashing them on his cooldown time. The price of Cooling Divine Stone was not bad, it could reduce the cooldown time by a certain amount each time. The stronger the skill, the weaker the cooldown effect. But no matter how weak it was, it could still be reduced. If one didn't work, then he would smash 10 Cooling Divine Stones down and see if it could still be cooled down. Therefore, he had unlimited teleportation, intercepting them in front, unable to cause any further damage to the three realms. Moreover, no matter how much the price was, as long as it could repel them, it was worth it no matter how much it cost. Damn it, retreat immediately, retreat immediately. This kind of situation scared Heavenly Venerable Nine Hong and the others so much that they wanted to immediately retreat from this place, not daring to continue staying here any longer. If they continued to stay here, they would definitely be the ones to die. Originally, there were 8 that came separately, and now there were less than 3 or 4 left. It was simply too tragic to look at. At that time, even if they escaped back to the God realm, they would be punished. I'm just having fun fighting, what's the hurry to leave? Heavenly Venerable Strength laughed loudly and opened his hand, stopping them. He could not kill them, but stopping them was not a problem. Even if he couldn't kill them, he could at least make them suffer for a while. It wasn't just Heavenly Sovereignly and the others. The other cultivators of the god realm of the three realms were also beating them while they were down. They continued to activate the great array formations around them, forming a dense net of light that enveloped them, wanting to capture them. The moves were the same as before, nothing new. But it was this kind of ordinary move that could stop them for a while. Even if it was only for a few seconds, it was more than enough. With the help of many local powerhouses in the three realms' deity realm, the remaining Empyreans were finally wiped out by Yi Tianyun. Of the dozen or so Empyreans he brought, only 2 were left. The rest of the god's realm puppets who were observing the situation nearby were so scared that their legs turned to jelly. They turned around and fled. Yi Tianyun could not be bothered with them. They already knew which celestial territory it was. When the time came, he would slowly settle the score. Right now, he had to deal with these big shots first. Only you 2 are left. Yi Tianyun and the others flew over one after another. A group of people surrounded the 2 upper Empyreans. Heavenly Sovereign Jian Si and the others prepared to join the battle and suppress them together with Heavenly Sovereignly. Even if I die, I won't let you have it easy. Heavenly Sovereign Nine Hong and the others roared. The power that was already burning was completely stimulated once again. This time, it was a complete eruption. It consumed all of their energy, including their souls, blood, and even their physical bodies. They were all exploding and burning. Previously, when facing Heavenly Sovereignly, they were already violent enough and stimulated all of their potential. Now, they were even burning all of their energy. Even if Yi Tianyun let them go later, they would be considered half-crippled. No, the 2 of them aren't exploding. They are drawing on some kind of power. Heavenly Sovereignly frowned. He felt that the fluctuations in the void were a little different. It was obvious that they were summoning something and were not going all out. Heavenly Sovereignly wasn't the only one who sensed it. Yi Tianyun also sensed it. The void vibrated with terrifying power as if something would come out at any time. That's right, hurry up and stop them. Yi Tianyun hurriedly shouted. Heavenly Sovereign Sword Si and the others had grave expressions. They immediately erupted with their strongest power and attacked Heavenly Sovereign Nine Hong and Heavenly Sovereign Red Soaring together. Yi Tianyun quickly changed into the evil Lord of Heaven Set and raised his power to the limit. The stellar divine spear in his hand swung wildly and rapidly pierced forward. Boom! 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 The 4 of them joined forces and attacked fiercely. However, they were unable to break through this defensive barrier for a while. Yi Tianyun quickly realized that this barrier was cast by the 2 of them. It was quite sturdy. Even if the 4 of them joined forces and attacked fiercely, it would take some time to destroy it. He didn't expect that at this time, the 2 forces that were a little hostile to each other would actually join forces. It seemed like the enemy of an enemy was a friend. Under this crisis, they even joined forces. It's useless. I said that even if I die, I'll let you die with me. Heavenly Sovereign Nine Hong laughed loudly, blood dripping from the corners of his mouth. However, it evaporated very quickly, turning into countless energy that gushed into the void. That's right. Either way, we're going to die when we go back. Might as well fight it out with you. Heavenly Sovereign Red Soaring looked at Heavenly Sovereign Nine Hong and said with a big laugh, I didn't expect that I would actually join forces with you in the end and use this kind of move. What a great irony. Then let's fight again in the next life. Heavenly Sovereign Nine Hong laughed loudly, his eyes full of resentment. What they hated the most right now was Yi Tianyun. All their plans were messed up, leading to the current situation of defeat. The higher-ups would not accept the situation of defeat. When they returned, they would definitely be severely punished or even killed. Since that was the case, they might as well die together. Under the laughter, their bodies rapidly dissipated, all turning into energy that gathered and fusing in the void. Two great upper-level heavenly venerables sent all their energy up. Who knew what kind of monster would be summoned? Huff, huff, huff. At this time, a huge light barrier formed in the void. Images appeared on it as if it was replaying some scenes. This is space-time sacrifice. Heavenly Venerable Force's expression changed. Space-time sacrifice. Tianyun looked up, and very soon, detailed information appeared in front of him. Space-time sacrifice, contribute all one's energy, able to rewind the past space-time and summon the corresponding powerhouse out. At the same time, one will suffer heavy injuries or even die. The summoned space-time powerhouse can only stay for a day at most. Very soon, a figure slowly appeared in the distorted space, walking out of that image. Wielding a blood-red divine sword, his eyes were incomparably red, and a murderous aura was released, Heavenly Venerable Killer God. Chapter 14:12. The powerhouse that emerged from space-time was actually Empyrean Death God. Heavenly Venerable Death God had clearly been killed, so how had he come back to life? In truth, Empyrean Death God hadn't come back to life. Rather, he had been recalled by space-time backtracking. In theory, he was revived, but he could only live for a day. This meant that he could only stay in this world for a day before disappearing and leaving this world once more. It didn't matter how long Empyrean Death God had been here. Now, he had reappeared, and he had even appeared in the form of a king. Sharp killing intent spread in all directions. The formless killing intent could only be felt, but not touched. Just a little bit of it was enough to make the cultivators feel a little confused. The situation had become especially bad, and they had the urge to lose their minds. Empyrean Death God. Tianyun's pupils shrank. Empyrean Death God's cultivation was at the middle upper Empyrean level, not the late upper Empyrean level. It could only be said that the two of them sacrificed themselves to summon Empyrean Death God, who was a middle Empyrean, was already quite amazing. Empyrean Godslayer, upper Empyrean mid-Empyrean cultivation base. He has an extremely powerful killing intent and can condense it into any form to attack. Wherever the murderous aura passed, not only could it steal the souls of others, but it could also shatter the void. Comprehensive combat power, 10 billion points of star power, in a state of moderate outburst. Weaknesses, none. 10 billion star power points. That was quite a shocking combat power. Heavenly Venerate Mighty Heavenly Venerate could only unleash 8 billion points of star power at most. And this was the extreme state. Heavenly Venerate Godslayer was 2 billion points more powerful than him. The key was that he was in the intermediate state, not the strongest state. If it really erupted, no one would be able to stop it without at least 12 to 13 billion. There was no way the mighty Sky Heavenly Venerate could win in such a situation. It was still fine if they were both upper Heavenly Venerables, but now that they were facing a middle Heavenly Venerate, it was completely different. Moreover, this was Empyrean Killing God, a peerless powerhouse that caused others to tremble in fear at the mere mention of his name. The pupils of Heavenly Exalt Li and the others constricted as well. Their hearts had fallen to rock bottom while a chill surged out from their hearts. It was fine if he was a middle-stage upper Empyrean, but he was a monster like Empyrean Godslayer. As for the mark of the vast Empyrean, it didn't exist at all. The state of space-time backtracking was undoubtedly a state where he had not been attacked. Therefore, he would not have any attack marks on his body. That's right, it's Heavenly Venerate Killing God. We're done for this time. Heavenly Venerate Force revealed a bitter smile. It was true that they possessed extraordinary regenerative abilities, but in the face of the terrifying Heavenly Venerate Killing God, a single slash of his sword could slice everything into nothingness. What was the point of healing? Heavenly Sovereign Jian Si and the others also revealed bitter smiles, and it could even be said that they did not have the slightest fighting spirit to speak of. Only their master, Empyrean Vast Expanse, could deal with Empyrean Death God. Now that time and space had been reversed, even if his cultivation had been reduced, the overall power was quite strong, far beyond the scope of what they could resist. Little junior brother, take this chance to escape. We have no choice but to give up on the god realm of the three realms. We also have to give up on the token core. Otherwise, we'll be under constant surveillance. Celestial Force turned to Yi Tianyun and gestured for them to flee. Celestial Lord Sword C and the others were the same. They transmitted their voices to each other, hinting for Yi Tianyun to immediately bring his people and flee as far as they could. Are you guys discussing how to escape? Empyrean Death God slowly spoke at this time. He did not attack immediately, but instead walked towards them step by step. With just one step, the surrounding space was sealed by his murderous aura. Their breathing stagnated. Empyrean Death God was going to attack. Immediately, they prepared to fight. Moreover, they were going to fight with their lives on the line. Don't worry, I won't be so anxious to play you to death. After all, you are the disciples of Empyrean Vast Expanse. I have to have some fun. After all, I still have a day. Empyrean Death God smiled slightly and said, I really didn't expect that I would be able to see the light of day again. The time is a little short, but at least I can make a trip back. That's right, there's also you, kid. You were the one who killed me. I really didn't expect to see you here again. Empyrean Death God's smile was very cold. It could be said that it was cold to the bottom of their hearts. Although he said that there was no need to be so anxious to kill them, the red sword in his hand flickered with blood-red light, ready to reap lives at any time. As soon as his voice fell, Empyrean Death God swung his sword to the side. An extreme red light tore through the void and slashed at the planet beside him. Bang! A deep mark was immediately carved into the planet. The defensive array on it was nearly useless. Rather, it was only a tiny bit effective. If it weren't for this defensive array, the planet would have likely been cut in half. Under this slash, the planet was instantly blasted away, and there were many casualties. You! Yi Tianyun's eyes darkened. He clenched his fists, anger soaring to the heavens. I'm sorry, I was just casually testing out my sword to see how strong it was. Although it isn't as strong as when I was at my peak, overall it's not bad. Empyrean Death God coldly smiled. At the very least, there isn't that disgusting mark. If it weren't for that mark, do you think you could have killed me? Although this was spacetime backtracking, the memories still existed. After all, what he had summoned was the true Empyrean Death God, not an illusion. This sort of move couldn't be casually used. It required sacrificing oneself as the price, and one couldn't always resurrect. This was a taboo martial art. Normally, one wouldn't use it unless they were forced into a dead end and wanted to perish together with their enemy. Yi Tianyun's complexion was terrifyingly dark. If things continued like this, Empyrean Death God would definitely destroy the entire Three Realms God realm. With Empyrean Death God's cultivation, how could he possibly need a day? In just a few hours, he could destroy the entire Three Realms God realm. But the mission that I was summoned here is to kill you and destroy your influence. How about this, I will destroy your God realm first and then I will deal with you. This way, you can watch as your influence is slowly destroyed. A red light flashed in Empyrean Death God's eyes. Although his tone seemed calm, the truth was that he wished that he could immediately kill Yi Tianyun. But he didn't want things to end like this. He wanted Yi Tianyun to taste all the pain he could, and then he would ruthlessly torture him before finally killing him. This was the only way he could take revenge. If he destroyed him with a single sword strike, that would be far too boring. He only had one day to live. At that time, there wouldn't be anything to do. Or rather, even if he wanted to do something, he wouldn't be able to. Chapter 14:13. Little junior brother, I will stop him first. You guys run first. Heavenly Venerable Force was ready to die at any time. This time, their master would not appear. Even if he wanted to appear, it would be more difficult. It would take a lot of time to reinforce them. They would not be able to make it in time. Even if they could rush over in 2 days, the god realm of the 3 realms would already be gone. Moreover, 2 days was not enough. They would be finished in half a day. Little junior brother, there is no time to think. Let's go. Heavenly Venerable Sword C and the others could only run. It was not that they were afraid of death, but they did not want to make unnecessary sacrifices. It was not worth dying here, especially when facing such a powerhouse. How could they not run? They could not defeat the other party even if they risked their lives. If they continued to be rash, they would be courting death. When facing so many heavenly venerables before, they could at least fight. Now, they did not even have the chance to fight. How could they fight? Heavenly Venerable Force and the others were constantly persuading Yi Tianyun to leave, but Yi Tianyun had no intention of leaving. This made them very anxious. No, we still have a chance. Yi Tianyun's eyes burned. I don't want the god realm of the 3 realms to be destroyed. I don't want so many people who support me to die. He could only bring away a portion of the cultivators. It was impossible to bring away all of them. Although he could bring away many cultivators, he could not abandon this place. Especially if he had to abandon so many cultivators. This was something he did not want to do. Moreover, he still had a mission to complete. He could not admit defeat. But if you don't leave, can you deal with him? Heavenly Venerable Sword C and the others frowned. Sometimes, it was not good to be too stubborn. You could not have your cake and eat it too. Some things had to be sacrificed. Yes. Yi Tianyun said solemnly, as long as you guys help me lock onto him for a short time, I guarantee that he will die without any dregs left. Lock onto him for a short time. The 3 of them were stunned. As long as they locked onto him for a short time, they could kill Heavenly Venerable Godslayer. How should they kill him? Could it be that Yi Tianyun would personally attack? It was undeniable that Yi Tianyun's attacks were ferocious, but he was still lacking when facing Heavenly Venerable Godslayer. Yes, there's no time to lose. Let's act now. Wait for my notice. I'll let you know when I'm ready. In the meantime, I hope that the 3 of you can use your full strength to stop him for a while. Yi Tianyun's tone was firm, as if he was full of confidence. After a moment of silence, Heavenly Lord Li chose to believe in Yi Tianyun's idea and immediately agreed. All right, we'll do as you say. Yi Tianyun nodded and said in a low voice, then I'll go prepare first. But before that, help me break this ceiling formation. No problem. The 3 senior apprentice brothers immediately took action. It was as if they had cooperated countless times. The power of the 3 linked together, and then they fiercely threw out an extremely sharp light, breaking the seal in front of them. The moment it was broken, Yi Tianyun's figure flickered and he immediately fled the area. Although his title was quite heaven-defying, he was still suppressed by the powerful seal of an upper Empyrean. Thus, he could only break the seal before being able to teleport over. You're courting death. Empyrean Death God sneered, do you think you can escape? Since you want to stand up for him, then I'll cut you down first. If I kill you, I believe that Vast Empyrean will vomit blood in anger. Empyrean Death God didn't chase after Yi Tianyun. In any case, in his opinion, Yi Tianyun would die last, so there was no need to worry. In particular, Yi Tianyun had the token core on him, so it was impossible for him to escape. Unless Yi Tianyun was willing to give up the token core, Empyrean Death God could easily catch up to him. It would be difficult not to recognize such an obvious symbol. Immediately, Empyrean Death God waved the red sword in his hand and quickly slashed out several times. Each slash turned into a red light that tore through the world, chopping towards them in irregular directions. There was no way to dodge. The 3 of them had no intention of dodging. They gathered their formidable strength and collided with Empyrean Death God. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Following an explosion, the 3 of them were actually blasted flying out. In contrast, Empyrean Death God was completely fine. They didn't expect that the three of them joining hands were still inferior to Empyrean Death God alone. Empyrean Death God was indeed not in existence with an undeserved reputation. When he truly erupted, no one could stop him. You only have this bit of strength? If you really only have this bit of strength, then it would be too disappointing. I should say that the disciples taught by Empyrean Vast Empyrean are really too trash. Empyrean Death God laughed loudly, red killing aura wings emerging from his back, and he rushed over here. Passing through a large stretch of the void, surging red killing aura bloomed in the air, locking down all areas. Everywhere it passed, everyone was affected. Even Empyrean Sword C and the others were affected a little. This was still not Empyrean Death God's peak state. If he truly encountered his peak state, what kind of power would it be? Rest assured, we won't let you down. Empyrean Force and the others shouted out loud, clashing head-on with Empyrean Death God once more. Even if they were no match, they still had to resist. Tianyun had already told them that they had to stop Empyrean Death God at all costs. After he notified them, they had to suppress Empyrean Death God and restrict him to a certain range. Thus, the strength they displayed now wasn't their strongest, but was deliberately showing weakness so that Empyrean Death God would relax his vigilance and think that they only had this bit of strength. Little junior apprentice brother, don't let us down. The three of them didn't know what Tianyun was doing, but they could only choose to believe him. If they could really eliminate Empyrean Death God, then they would win the Divine Realm War. The powerhouses of 2 divine realms had already been eliminated, so what divine realm could stop them? Unless the inner divine realm sent down a large number of powerhouses, they would absolutely be able to survive for a month. Even if the inner divine realm really sent down a bunch of powerhouses, there wouldn't be enough time. Just the time it took for them to travel was more than enough. At this time, Tianyun had already returned to the 3 realms. Without hesitation, he went to the control room in the mortal realm. The control room was no different from before, and he still sat down on the same seat. Activate the mortal realm supremacy slaughtering grand array. His eyes sparkled with extreme light. At the same time, the 5 elemental cores in the mortal realm began to frantically revolve. The power of the 5 elemental cores constantly surged out from the depths of the earth. Then, a massive array began to rapidly appear on the surface of the mortal realm. This great array nearly covered the entire mortal realm. From the outside, it looked like an incomparably massive array had appeared. Under normal circumstances, no one would be able to see it. But now, a massive array had suddenly appeared. Chapter 14:14. The slaughter of the Elder's Great Array is the power that Tianyun can control after controlling the 5 elements core. The slaughter of the Elder's Great Array, as the name suggests, is a great array that can slaughter heavenly masters and has an absolute killing power. Tianyun didn't want to use this thing from the beginning, mainly because the slaughter of the Elder's Great Array is a trump card, and the cooldown time is extremely terrifying. After using it once, it will take 10 years to cool down. Even if he has Cooling God Stone, it will be difficult to use it without 10 years of cooldown. The amount of Cooling God Stone needed is too much. Although he has a lot of crazy point, after using the Cooling God Stone, he estimated that his crazy point will be used up. If he really encounters a situation where he must use it, even if he runs out of crazy point, he will use it. Now is the situation where he has to use it. Heavenly Master Li and the others can't deal with it at all, and their biggest trump card was used just like that. At first, Tianyun thought that they could still deal with it, so he didn't use it. Waiting for them to deal with it slowly, it is not very difficult to deal with it steadily. It is difficult, but at least there is hope to deal with it. Now, there was no hope at all. The middle Empyrean Death God possessed absolute strength and could easily crush them to death. Even if Heavenly Master Li and the others join forces, they can't deal with it. Even if they exhaust all their energy, it will be useless. As for like Heavenly Master Jiuhong and the others, burning themselves to summon a powerhouse. They did not cultivate this. Vast Heavenly Master forbids cultivating this thing. Besides, even if they cultivate it, they can't summon it. The gap in cultivation is too big, it is estimated that they will be killed before they can summon it. The power that the two upper heavenly masters burst out before can form a temporary protection, so it can be summoned successfully. If there is no strong protective array, it will not be able to be summoned, and it will be easily killed. In this case, Tianyun could only use his trump card. Originally, he planned to use it as a defensive trump card when he was in the divine domain. Whoever dares to invade at will, it will definitely be a deterrent. Now they can only use it, otherwise they will be finished. Activate, Slaughter of the Elders Great Array. Tianyun's eyes shone. Instantly, the energy from the core of the 5 elements surged out and entered the honorable slaying array. At the same time, the cultivators quickly discovered the abnormality under their feet. They were all very surprised. Before they knew it, a huge array had appeared beneath their feet. They had no idea what was going on. Buzz buzz buzz, the supremacy slaughtering array shone with light, and soon, a spot of light condensed outside the planet. At the same time, it became bigger and bigger, and soon, it was half the size of the planet. It looked like a sun condensed outside. When the cultivators of the sacred realm of the 3 realms saw this, they were shocked. They could clearly feel an extremely terrifying energy descending from the sky. It was so oppressive that they couldn't move, and they couldn't even think of escaping. Everyone, sit down and meditate. Don't panic. I'm the one who caused all this. Tianyun quickly transmitted his voice to the people around him, telling them to calm down and not be frightened. Hearing Tianyun's voice, everyone calmed down, listened to him and slowly sat down to meditate. After sitting down to meditate, they immediately felt a little better. At the same time, Tianyun took out a communication jade pendant and ruthlessly crushed it. After crushing it, Heavenly Venerate Force's communication jade pendant immediately responded. This meant that they were about to take action. At this time, they were already covered in cuts and bruises. They didn't know how many sword slashes they had suffered. Some were rapidly healing, some were so deep that their bones could be seen, and some had lost large chunks of flesh. None of this mattered. The important thing was that the surging killing intent had seeped in and affected their performance. It had to be known that Tianyun had only left for a short while, but in the blink of an eye, they were already covered in cuts and bruises. They felt as if they were about to collapse. To be able to last so long against Heavenly Venerate Godslayer was already quite impressive. Heavenly Venerate Godslayer was not easy to deal with. When he truly erupted, no one could stop him. Finally, when they received news from Tianyun, they immediately took action. Let's go. As they desperately resisted Heavenly Venerate Godslayer's fierce attacks, they suddenly split into 3 groups. All of their strength instantly erupted, releasing the greatest amount of energy without holding back. They didn't dare to hold back. If they did, there was a chance they wouldn't be able to suppress Heavenly Venerate Godslayer. Bang! A massive 3-pointed star formation formed in the void, surrounding them from all directions. Soon, countless swords of light fell down, ruthlessly stabbing into Heavenly Venerate Godslayer's side, locking him in place. At the same time, a dense rain of light swords fell upon Heavenly Venerate Godslayer's body. With their full strength, the strength of the 3 of them rose by a great deal, reaching the middle upper Heavenly Venerate realm. But no matter what, they could only reach this level, not surpass it. Is this your final counterattack before death? Heavenly Venerate Godslayer waved the red sword in his hand, rapidly cutting apart the incoming swords of light. A single sword cut apart a large number of them. Their all-out attacks had no effect on him at all. If this is your final counterattack before death, then I'm far too disappointed. Heavenly Venerate Godslayer's eyes turned red. It's time to end this. All of you can die for me. Heavenly Venerate Godslayer roared. He raised his sword and rushed towards Heavenly Venerate Force, sweeping away the incoming swords of light. But even after this sweep, he still wasn't able to destroy all the swords of light nailed to the outside. He only managed to destroy a small layer. After destroying a layer, there were still several more layers outside. This didn't have any killing power. It was simply to stop him and prevent him from running around. This was what Tianyun wanted them to do. They didn't want to nail Heavenly Venerate Godslayer to the void, nor did they want to engage in a crazy battle with him. What they needed to do was to move around and trap him in a certain area. At the same time, the three of them rapidly scattered to the side. Tianyun repeatedly told them to immediately retreat to a certain area after they were done controlling him. You want to trap me with just this bit of strength? You are far too naive. Heavenly Venerate Godslayer felt extremely disdainful towards this. But just as he was about to destroy all the swords of light trapping him, he suddenly turned his head to look ahead. He immediately felt a terrifying strength transmit towards him from the area in front of him. First, it was a small dot of light that soon turned into a massive dot of light. Finally, it turned into a massive pillar of light that swallowed him. First, it destroyed the swords of light outside. The originally firm swords of light were swallowed up by this pillar of light and rapidly disappeared, turning into a mass of light that swallowed Heavenly Venerate Godslayer. Chapter 14-15. Heavenly Venerate Killer God was so scared that all his pores opened up and he immediately erupted with his strongest power. The Killer God power within his body and the various Empyrean spirit treasures were released one after another. Several blood-red wings appeared on his back, turning into 6 wings in an instant. The Killer God power was raised to the maximum, so much so that a blood-red phantom appeared behind him. Upon closer inspection, one would discover that it was a giant skeleton that looked extremely ferocious. He didn't hesitate to slash down at the incoming beam of light. He roared, "Killer God!" The giant red light slashed vertically, wanting to split the incoming beam of light in two. This sword strike gathered all of his power. When it was unleashed, even the wings on his back disappeared, all of it gathered into this sword strike. The power of this sword had already reached 18 billion points of star power, far surpassing his previous level. This was his strongest power. Ordinary mid-level upper heavenly venerates weren't his match. But when this sword, which he had put all his strength into, touched the giant beam of light, it instantly disappeared without any resistance. Not to mention leaving a mark on the beam of light, there wasn't even a speck of red left. It was directly swallowed up by the white light. What upper heavenly venerate power! In front of this power, it was completely trash. After swallowing the red light, it rushed over and swallowed Heavenly Venerate Killer God. First, it swallowed his arm, instantly evaporating into a pile of nothingness. He struggled to escape. But his speed was too slow. He didn't even have time to turn around. From the moment he was targeted, it was already too late for him to escape. No, no. I can't accept this. Heavenly Venerate Killer God roared. But before he could finish speaking, he was completely swallowed by the beam of light. After the beam of light swallowed Heavenly Venerate Killer God, it continued forward until it flew out of the 3 realms God realm. When the beam of light disappeared, Heavenly Venerate Killer God naturally disappeared as if he had never appeared. Everything happened too quickly. Heavenly Venerate Force and the others didn't even have time to react. Especially when they felt that terrifying power, their hearts trembled. If this beam of light had struck them, they would have died without a doubt. Fortunately, they had run a little further, otherwise they would have really died. This is too terrifying. What kind of power is this? Where did little junior brother get such a powerful force from? Yeah, what kind of power is this? If they had used it right from the start, they would have killed all the heavenly venerables. They were all stupefied, unable to recover from their shock for a long time. Previously, when Tianyun said that he would leave it to him, they believed that Tianyun could do it. Now that he had really done it, it was just too unexpected. It was basically an instant kill. The powerful Empyrean killing god couldn't even block it at all before being killed. Successfully killed God Killer Heavenly Master. Reward, 300. 000 EXP, 10. 000 Crazy Point, 10. 000 SPS, obtained Killing God Sword, Upper Empyrean Spirit Treasure, Killing God Power, Killing God Art. You've killed someone above your level. You've gained an additional 80,000 compressed experience points. When Tianyun heard the voice in the control room, he heaved a sigh of relief. He did not know if the power of the great array of slaughtering the Supremes was really that amazing. But now it seems that it is really powerful. Killing God Killer Heavenly Master was directly killed without a chance to resist. This is too terrifying in his opinion. What if it controls the other two areas? Wouldn't the power that can erupt be even more terrifying? After the eruption, Tianyun felt that the energy of the five elements core has quickly become a lot smaller. Obviously, the consumption is still a lot. Correspondingly, the cooldown time is 10 years, it is really a terrifying cooldown time, it is really too long. The final trump card is used. The power is really amazing, the great array of a grade 9 god carving master is really powerful. Tianyun is still very surprised. In fact, this attack is still compressed. Under normal circumstances, the range can be a little larger, basically covering a small part of the three realms' divine realm. This means that the first 16 heavenly venerables who came to kill them can be blasted to pieces. But he doesn't want to do this, he feels that it is a bit wasteful. Unless it is absolutely necessary, he really doesn't want to use it like this. In the end, he still used it, the range was compressed to a small area. If the range was too large, then even Heavenly Venerate Force and the others would be covered, and even his planet would be covered. At that time, not only will Empyrean Killing God be destroyed, but Heavenly Venerate Force and the others will also be blasted to pieces. Originally, this kind of attack is an area of effect attack, it is impossible to distinguish one's own people. As long as anything in front of it is blocked, it will be blasted to pieces. No matter what, it is all over. After Empyrean Killing God died, everything is basically over. He slumped in his chair and looked up at the sky. The Battle of the Divine Realm, is this considered a success? A Grade 1 Divine Realm successfully rushed to the inner Divine Realm. This is absolutely a miracle. There has never been such a situation before, but it was created by his hands. After Empyrean Killing God was killed, everyone reorganized themselves, treated their injuries, or continued to be on guard against other powerhouses invading. In fact, there is no need for this. After the powerhouses of the two divine realms were killed, they were all scared out of their wits. How would they dare to continue coming? Especially when someone as heaven-defying as Empyrean Killing God was killed, who would dare to invade? Little junior brother, that move of yours is too powerful. How did you do it? After Heavenly Venerate Force and the others came over, they still could not suppress the shock in their hearts. Actually, it is an ancient array formation. After it is used, it is very difficult to use. Tianyun shook his head. This is not a lie. It is indeed an ancient array formation, and after it is used, it has a very long cooldown. They came to a realization and did not continue asking. Everyone has their own trump cards, so there is no need to say too much. In any case, as long as it is not an enemy, the more such trump cards, the better. No matter what, I have to congratulate you in advance this time. In 2 weeks, you will successfully enter the inner divine realm. Heavenly Venerate Force sighed. At first, I thought it would be very difficult, but in the end, you still succeeded. You can be said to have created a miracle, leaping from a grade 1 divine realm to a grade 4 divine realm. This is something that no one would dare to imagine in the past. Hee, little junior brother, not only did you dare to imagine it, you even achieved it. Heavenly Venerate Sword Ruler's eyes were also filled with joy. All that is left is to wait for the time to come. When the time comes, we will directly enter the inner divine realm. You all better make your preparations. Chapter 14-16. 2 weeks was a very short period of time for cultivators. But to them, a day felt like a year. Every one of them was on high alert. Even after destroying 2 god realms, they were still on high alert, not daring to relax. Even if Yi Tianyun told them to relax, they wouldn't. As long as they didn't pass, there was no need to relax, much less end. Days passed, and in the blink of an eye, almost 2 weeks had passed. A few more hours and it would be a month. By then, everything would be settled. A grade 1 god realm would ascend to a grade 4 god realm. This was an unprecedented leap, a historical miracle. Normally, only grade 3 god realms would compete, and grade 1 god realms would be cannon fodder. But now, it was the other way around, with grade 1 god realms as cannon fodder. Every one of them was overjoyed at the thought of being able to head to a grade 4 god realm. Little junior brother, when you head to the grade 4 god realm, Master will come looking for you. He will help you to prevent other god realms from attacking, Heavenly Venerately reminded. But Master's injuries haven't healed yet, and it will be difficult to defend against strong enemies when they invade. But we'll be there soon. When the time comes, we'll stand guard for you. However, there's a question that you have to face. As Master's disciple, I wonder if you're willing to join our vast divine sect? Heavenly Venerately hesitated for a moment, but decided to say it. I won't force it. Even if I don't join the sect, Master will still help. Why not? Yi Tianyun said with a smile. The 3 of them didn't choose to escape in the face of danger, and instead covered his escape. Just this point alone made it worth joining the sect. He didn't need to think too much about it before he agreed. They were stunned, not expecting Yi Tianyun to agree so quickly. But then, they rejoiced. Since little junior brother is so straightforward, that's great. But Master never interferes with the management of any forces, and he lets us develop. We will only announce to the outside world that the divine realm of the 3 realms has joined the vast divine sect and is a part of the vast divine sect. Wouldn't this have a positive impact on the vast divine sect? Yi Tianyun was rather curious about this point. That's for sure. The main problem is that our vast god sect is in a difficult situation. We've never had any god realm powers. Empyrean Force and the others were incomparably embarrassed. The vast divine sect doesn't have any god realm forces? Yi Tianyun asked in astonishment. Yes, we are in the inner divine realm, but we are in a divine realm without a master. This was similar to the Chaos Celestial realm, so it couldn't be considered a force. If little junior brother announces that he's joining us, it'll be equivalent to having more face. It'll be equivalent to Master's teaching, allowing a disciple to rise up from below. This way, Master's situation will be slightly better. At the very least, I won't be looked down upon by my original faction. They were actually in a very awkward situation. They looked very powerful, but in reality, their standards could only be considered passable in the inner god territory. This was the same as in the beginning. A sage king could do whatever he wanted in the mortal world, but in the divine realm, he was the lowest of the low. Original faction? Yi Tianyun was taken aback. This is a long story. In short, it's because of differences in ideals. In a fit of anger, Master left his original faction. That's why he ended up in such a situation. Empyrean Force shook his head and didn't say anything else. Some things were too complicated. When the time came, Yi Tianyun would understand. That's not a problem. I welcome you to move to the sacred realm of the 3 realms. Yi Tianyun smiled. That won't be the case. Master definitely won't move here. He's used to freedom. He just doesn't want to manage too much. That's why he left his original faction. Empyrean Force thought for a moment before continuing to explain. One more thing. The territory in the inner god territory is incomparably precious. Before you are moved up, no one knows where you will be assigned to. However, no matter what, it won't be bad. When the time comes, there will probably be other god territories eyeing you covetously, wanting to swallow you up. At that time, there might be a war. You have to be careful. You have to defend your territory to the death. Once Master goes over, things will be much better, Empyrean Force reminded. Tianyun nodded. He knew that things wouldn't be too peaceful up there. I know that. However, won't it be a little too much to be surrounded as soon as I go up? Tianyun said. That's normal. If you're weak or don't have a backer, you'll be attacked immediately. The territory of a grade 4 god territory is fixed. Only when a new faction comes up will a new territory be opened up. A new territory means new resources. It's impossible to fight over it, Empyrean Force explained. So that's how it is. It looks like the real battle will start when we go up. Tianyun shook his head. No wonder after going up, the task reward also includes forming a strong shield, can protect them from attack. If they didn't have a backer, they would probably be destroyed immediately. That's about it. It's about time. We'll retreat first. We'll meet up there. They couldn't follow them up, so they could only return to the god territory through the passage. All right. They quickly tore open the void and disappeared. They had to rush back as fast as they could. There were still a few hours left. No one would come to attack them at this time. Even if there was a sneak attack, Tianyun should be able to deal with it. There was no need for them to worry. After watching them leave, Tianyun came out of the hall. A group of cultivators was extremely excited. When they saw Tianyun coming out, they all turned to look at him, including the Divine Spirit Tribe and the Glaze region leader. They were all excited. There's only 4 hours left before we finish the God Territory battle. Then, we'll move to Grade 4 God Territory. Tianyun said with a smile. I'm also very excited about this. However, once we go up, we'll face even greater pressure. I hope you'll work harder. All right. Everyone cheered. Even if they died, they felt that it was worth it. Sometimes, cultivating for so long wasn't just for survival. Sometimes, living for too long would drive one crazy. Especially without a goal and motivation, living for too long was useless. Chapter 14-17. A group of people stared at the past 4 hours. When it finally reached 4 hours, the time display on the core of the token in Tianyun's hand immediately disappeared, and it became a normal token. At the same time, the divine light that shrouded them quickly disappeared, and everything returned to normal. Finally, he would not be locked on, and he would not be watched by anyone. In fact, it did not matter whether the divine light disappeared or not. No one would dare to invade them anyway. Is it finally time? Tianyun looked at the token in his hand. Soon, the token in his hand began to emit a dazzling light that shrouded all the planets in the divine realm of the 3 realms. Are we going to the inner divine realm? Tianyun was excited. He was finally going to the inner divine realm, to that brand new world. Immediately, they felt a bright light in front of them. The dazzling light made them unable to open their eyes. The next moment, the planets in the divine realm of the 3 realms began to disappear, as if they had disappeared into thin air. Tianyun also felt an invisible energy pouring down from the void and shrouding them. After the planets disappeared, there was not a single planet left in the divine realm. It became empty. Not long after they disappeared, other cultivators quickly flew over. When they saw that the place was empty, they were all stunned. They can really be moved away. So many huge planets were moved away. What kind of power is this? Yes, this is really amazing. What kind of cultivation does one have to reach to be able to move so many planets? I'm not sure about this. Maybe it's not man-made anymore, but God, their hearts trembled. When they saw this scene for the first time, they were still deeply shocked. Everything was so amazing that it shocked them. Soon, cultivators from other divine realms flew over and saw that the planets here had been moved away. However, there were still some cultivators who were not moved away. They left with a look of disappointment on their faces. They had participated in the battle of the divine realm, but the time they had participated was too short, so they were not recognized at all. These people from the heavenly mandate divine realm had not joined for a long time, but they had at least been there for decades. Perhaps they had contributed more, and some of them could still be successfully transferred away. However, there were still some who were not successfully transferred away. Staying in this empty deity domain, they inevitably felt a little disappointed. So many people had gone to the grade 4 God domain, but they were unable to do so. They were as disappointed as they could be. This was especially true for those who had gone to participate in the divine realm war with the resolve to die. In the end, they had passed but hadn't been able to ascend. This was simply too disappointing. But the truth was right in front of them, and they could only choose to leave in disappointment. At the same time, this matter caused a commotion in the outer divine realms, and a group of cultivators flew over to occupy this region. Now that this area had been emptied, it was only natural that they would fight for it. After all, this was the divine territory. Even if there were no planets, it was still a territory. This was especially true since planets would form again here, so it would take some time. Therefore, they all moved over to fight for this piece of God territory. However, this region was no longer called the God realm of the three realms. It could only be called a land without a master. While everyone was busy fighting over this area, the real God realm of the three realms had already been moved to the inner God realm. Tianyun felt that it was a very long time. They were constantly enveloped by the white light, and they didn't know when it would end. However, they were not in a hurry. They all knew that they were already being transferred to the grade 4 God realm. As long as they knew that they could be transferred there, they could only wait. Anyway, everything had been settled, so there was no need to be in a hurry. Tianyun guessed that it might be because it was too far away, resulting in a longer time. Transferring from the grade 1 God realm to the inner God realm was really too far. Under normal circumstances, people would transfer from the grade 3 God realm to the inner God realm. The distance was relatively close, so naturally, it would not take too long. Now that the distance was a little far, the transfer would take a little longer. However, it did not take too long. After roughly a few days, the white light finally disappeared, and in its place was an endless starry sky. Tianyun looked up and saw countless small light spots twinkling in the sky, like stars twinkling in the sky. Are we finally in the inner God realm? Just as Tianyun was about to feel out what was different in the inner God realm, a surge of energy surged in from all directions, crashing into their bodies. However, it did not feel like they were sent flying. Instead, the energy surged into their bodies continuously. They did not need to absorb it on their own as it entered their bodies continuously, strengthening their cultivation and physiques. However, the effect was not that great for Tianyun. For the people at the side, the effect was extremely shocking. They immediately sat down to meditate, taking the initiative to adjust the energy in their bodies and absorb the energy outside. Most people sat down to meditate at the same time and started to absorb the energy. Their bodies started to glow with a faint white light, looking like they were covered by a layer of energy. The inner deity's domain is indeed the inner deity's domain. The environment here is much better. I don't even need to cultivate. I can probably just casually play around here and easily break through to the star venerate or earth monarch level. Tianyun could feel that this energy could rapidly raise the cultivation of those with low cultivation. As for the levels above the Lord of Heaven, the effect was much weaker. However, it was still very shocking. Based on this situation, it would not be difficult to break through to the God-Lord realm. Those who were originally stuck at the Lord of Heaven level were now breaking through the bottleneck and breaking through to a higher level. In the end, it was because the energy in the inner God realm was purer and denser. Most importantly, it also contained heavenly venerate energy. That's right, heavenly venerate energy was extremely rare in the outer God realms. However, it was everywhere here and extremely dense. Heavenly venerate energy was also non-elemental, which meant that there were no restrictions. As long as a cultivator cultivated it, they could absorb it into their body and further improve their cultivation. At this rate, it won't be difficult to break through to the rank 3 God realm. No wonder people are fighting to the death to come here. Even if there is only a small group of people left, they can still nurture a large group of cultivators. Tianyun shook his head. In the rank 4 God realm, what was needed were the elites of the elites. The God Lords in the outer God realms were very strong, but here, they were absolutely common, like cabbages on the roadside. Hence, it was not difficult to return to the peak. There was no need to fear death in the battle of the God realms. Chapter 14:18. Tianyun didn't enter the state of cultivation. He planned to walk around and see what the environment here was like. Due to his high cultivation, the effect of a grade 4 God realm environment on him was slightly smaller. Unlike other cultivators, he wouldn't sit down and cultivate in such an exaggerated manner. When he was about to look at the situation in other directions, a pleasant voice sounded in his ear. Successfully completed main quest sees grade 4 God realm token core, upgrade to grade 4 God realm. Received 100,000 compressed crazy point, 100,000 compressed sin point, 100,000 compressed proficiency. At the same time, obtained a special protective cover, no one can invade the 3 realms God realm for 1,000 years. Reward for completing a period of time, receive a super gift pack and unlock the crazy damage mode. Such a pleasant voice made his body tremble. He had to say that for him, this was finally the end of the bitterness. After working so hard for so long, wasn't it for the main quest? There was also the invincible gift pack. He didn't know what was in the gift pack, but he only needed to know the crazy damage mode, which was quite important. Without this crazy damage mode, his strength would be reduced by a lot. I finally completed the main quest, the difficulty is really not small. Tianyun breathed a sigh of relief. It should be a temporary sigh of relief, only God knows what kind of forces will come after him. Don't forget that Myriad Heaven God Realm and St. Peak God Realm both have powerful backers. Now that he stole the opportunity of 2 God Realms and killed so many heavenly venerables, the other God Realms will definitely be hostile to him. In this case, he would immediately make enemies of 2 God Realms, and he had to admit that the pressure was not small. Immediately afterward, layers of halos appeared outside, erupted from the 3 realms, and quickly spread to the surroundings, forming a layer of transparent shield. Successfully obtained invincible barrier for 1,000 years, can resist any cultivator's invasion, and at the same time can prevent anyone from entering. The invincible barrier was controlled by him, and it could prevent any cultivator from entering. It was a good benefit. However, the time was only a short 1,000 years, and although 1,000 years seemed like a long time, it was still too short for the initial development of a force. Even with the blessing of a grade 4 God realm environment, it was still relatively difficult to quickly improve. In particular, heavenly venerables were the main focus here. Just having a bunch of divine lords wouldn't make much sense. Looks like I only have 1,000 years to develop. I'll try to develop as much as I can during this period. Tianyun rubbed his head, feeling a little stressed. However, he believed that as long as he had enough resources, leveling up would not be a problem. Let's see what's in the gift bag first. Tianyun turned his attention to the big gift bag. This was something that he was looking forward to. Every time the big gift bag provided something, it would never disappoint. Open the gift bag. Ding! You have successfully opened the gift pack. You have received the cooldown talisman, can cool down for 1/5 of the time. All godly skills and bloodlines have been upgraded by 1 level. You have cleared the store's number of purchases. Enhanced fusion mode, can fuse bloodlines. Ding! Level up crazy mode. Due to insufficient level, unable to level up. Ding! Upgrade Dragon God bloodline. Unable to upgrade due to max level. Ding! Upgrade Phoenix bloodline. Due to max level, cannot be upgraded. Ding! Luck aura has leveled up to level 4. Luck effect has increased. Ding, leveled up teleportation to level 6, ding, leveled up void bloodline. A series of godly skills and bloodlines have all been upgraded by 1 level, it's really worth it. Unfortunately, there is a level limit, so it can only be wasted. But overall, it still saved a lot of crazy points. For him, this is still very satisfying. After all, overall, his overall strength has improved a lot. It can be said that he has suddenly become stronger. Of course, the most important thing is cultivation. Cultivation is the foundation. Now he has enough experience to level up, but he is not in a hurry to level up. If the level is too high, the reward for fighting above level is likely to be gone. Although the reward for defeating someone of a higher level was experience points, tens of thousands was tens of thousands. Who would complain about having more experience points? Cooldown Talisman, this is a good thing. Etienne's eyes lit up. It's the super evolved version of Cooldown God Stone. This reduces the cooldown time by 1/5, which means that using 5 of them can immediately cool down the skill. However, this is not suitable for skills with relatively short cooldown time, such as 1-minute cooldown time, but it needs to be divided into 5 cooldown time. That is too much of a loss. This thing is very suitable for the 5 elements core's cooldown time. After using 5 of them in 10 years, he can immediately use it again. But for the time being, he doesn't need this kind of skill. Anyway, he has invincible barrier. Who can invade him? Upgrade fusion mode to bloodline fusion. So, can I fuse Dragon God bloodline and Phoenix bloodline? Now the effect of his bloodline power is very limited. For example, Dragon God bloodline can provide 100 times increase in strength. Now it can only provide a dozen times increase in strength. The same is true for Phoenix bloodline, it can only provide a dozen times increase in speed. This is the problem of the bloodline level limit. The grade is too low, which leads to a significant reduction in the effect. This was the reason why he didn't use his previous martial arts, weapons, or the like. The effect is very weak, not to say that the power will become weaker, but the effect will become too weak. Those martial arts in the past have been abandoned, after all, can only choose to give up on Dragon God bloodline. If this continues, he will have to give up on things like Dragon God bloodline. The effect provided will become lower and lower. There is no difference between using it for nothing. Now that he can fuse bloodlines, what will it feel like to throw the two in? Let's try fusing. Tianyun immediately threw the 2 bloodlines in. Even if it fails, it does not matter, the effect will be a little weak anyway. After throwing in, the 2 bloodlines immediately fused, bit by bit in the fusion system, and in a moment, a new bloodline appeared in front of him, Dragon Phoenix Divine Bloodline. Dragon Phoenix Divine Bloodline not only has the amazing speed and rebirth effect of the Phoenix race, but also the extreme strength of the Dragon God race. After the 2 fuse, the shortcomings of the 2 will be made up, achieving a new bloodline effect. Current level is 1st grade, effect, increase strength by 50 times, speed by 50 times. Has the effect of rebirth, cooldown time is 10 years. At the same time, can transform into the Phantom of Dragon and Phoenix, has a suppressive effect on the monster race. This meant that he would definitely save money, and at the same time, he would be able to increase his strength by a large margin. This made him quite satisfied, but when he saw the difficulty, his face turned bitter. It was unknown how long it would take to complete this task. Looks like this is going to be the longest mission I've ever taken. Tianyun shook his head, not feeling depressed at all. After all, no matter what, he had to make the entire faction stronger. Otherwise, if he wasn't here, wouldn't it suffer destruction? He had to be strong, but if he couldn't make everyone strong, then the destruction of the 3 realms God realm was inevitable. Tianyun put this matter aside for the time being and turned his attention to the outside of the 3 realms planet. He had originally planned to investigate the situation outside, but the sudden mission had diverted his attention. Now that he had some spare time, he turned his attention over. After a little investigation, he immediately felt speechless. All the planets in the three realms God realm were originally gathered together. They weren't separated, but piled up together. This meant that more than a dozen planets were gathered here. In addition, there were a lot of rubble outside, densely packed in the vicinity. More importantly, they were floating in all directions, like thick walls surrounding them. Those outside couldn't come in easily, and correspondingly, those inside couldn't go out easily. We're really going to expand our territory. Tianyun shook his head. Seeing this situation, he knew that he needed to smash the rubble in this area, or there would be no way to get out. Immediately, he gathered powerhouses above the Divine Lord level and began to smash the rubble in all directions, smashing it into powder. Region Master Glaze and the others were all involved. As they didn't need to cultivate, they naturally joined in this development. Under the crazy smashing, the surrounding rubble rapidly decreased, and soon they saw a blue planet floating on the side. A new planet. This quickly attracted everyone's attention, and they all flew over. When they landed on this planet, it was filled with surging water attribute energy, and there was even a 4th grade water core embedded inside. 4th grade water core, this is really an excellent place to cultivate water attribute. Region Master Glaze's eyes were filled with ecstasy. Her previous water core was at most 1st grade, which was really too low. Now that there was a 4th grade water core, how could she not be overjoyed? Then I'll leave this water core to Sister Glaze to manage. Tianyun immediately assigned the water attribute to Region Master Glaze. Then I won't stand on ceremony. I'll make good use of this water core, and cultivate a large number of water attribute powerhouses. For example, your wife is very suitable to cultivate here. Region Master Glaze smiled. Tianyun smiled slightly. If Shi Shuiyan cultivated with her, she would definitely not be bad, and would only improve by leaps and bounds. Immediately after, they didn't stop, but continued to open up the rubble and spread out in all directions. Being able to find such an excellent planet lifted their spirits. If they continued to develop like this, they would definitely be able to find better resources. As expected, after a while, they found an Earth attribute core planet. There was also a 4th grade core inside, and it was rather precious. It had to be said that this was exciting news, and it made them work even harder to develop further. Who knew how many excellent planets they would find after they developed the entire God territory? These were all excellent places for cultivation and were more precious than elixirs or anything else. Of course, there were also many elixirs in these planets, and their grades were not low. No matter how trashy a 4th grade God territory was, it would not be lacking in resources, especially these undeveloped planets. These resources had not been mined before, and they would definitely bring him a large amount of resources. This way, it was not a dream to be able to produce a bunch of powerhouses in a short period of time. Very good, very good. Tianyun was getting more and more excited. After he stabilized his 4th grade God territory, he would then aim for 5th grade God territory. 5th grade God territory was the ultimate goal. Chapter 1420. Tianyun led the group and quickly cleared the area. This would take a long time to clear all the rubble in the entire deity domain. Those with low cultivation could not participate. They had to be at least God Lord. Otherwise, just the rubble alone would be enough to make them suffer. Late-stage heaven monarchs were still able to help, but those who were slightly weaker would probably be smashed flat. As for those below the Earth monarch level, it went without saying. They would just be sending themselves to their deaths. If everyone above the star venerate level could participate, the deity domain would definitely be cleared quickly. While clearing the rubble, Tianyun could feel his territory expanding bit by bit. Although he had moved them over, he could not cover most of them with his spiritual sense. He could not move them over directly. After all, this was not like the deity domain below. He had already expanded his territory long ago. Once it became his territory, he could move it at will. It was the same here. The title, I am the Domain Lord, was only effective in a limited area. As he continued to expand, the range of his perception became larger and larger. It looked like the title was still useful here. He had thought that it could only be used below. Now, it could still be used here. It did not matter if it was a rank 1 or rank 4 deity domain. After a period of rapid development, piles of rubble were destroyed. Many planets were excavated. There were planets with elemental cores, planets with all sorts of spirit herbs, and many planets with precious ores. These are the most primitive resources, and Yi Tianyun didn't hesitate to accept all of them without any hesitation. This was his territory in the first place. Naturally, he would not stand on ceremony. After the exploration, he would send Lord of Heaven experts to collect them. When the time came, they would accumulate them into contribution points. These were actually missions, a kind of collection mission. Yi Tianyun did not keep idle people. He sent them out to do things. Even if they could not leave, they would stay on the planet and cultivate. Cultivation was also a mission. The time needed to break through, the ranking they obtained, and so on were used as criteria. In a situation where one's cultivation was relatively low, they could only do this. They could not be sent out for collection missions. This was not a grade 1 god realm. Danger lurked in every corner. During the time when he was expanding his territory, Yi Tianyun encountered many powerful demonic beasts, all of which occupied the planets. These demonic beasts were all half-step heavenly venerables, and there were even heavenly venerables. As for divine lords, they were as common as dogs. Without a doubt, this was a difficult process that would take a long time to complete. It was accompanied by all sorts of dangers and problems. There are quite a few guests coming over. At this moment, Yi Tianyun sensed his invincible barrier. Amidst the frenzied attacks, he immediately knew that a guest had arrived. But whether or not it was Empyrean Vast Expanse, he didn't know. He quickly flew in that direction, wanting to see who had come here. He wanted to see if Empyrean Vast Expanse would come over. When the time came, Empyrean Vast Expanse would come over. The appearance of such a huge god's domain would definitely attract attention. Therefore, he was not surprised that there would be cultivators flying over here. As for how strong they were, that was another matter. Following which, after Yi Tianyun gave his instructions, he quickly flew to the edge of God's domain. He was unable to teleport over, so he could only fly over. As he was in a hurry, he barged his way over, smashing all the rocks into powder. As for the planets, he didn't care about them at all. He just got some coordinates and continued flying forward. These wouldn't disappear anyway, so there was no need to be so anxious. Now, he just wanted to guide Empyrean Vast Expanse in. He could sense that someone was coming, but he couldn't sense who it was. The territory wasn't his, so naturally, it wasn't something that he could decide. If he waited for all the territories to be opened up, then he would be able to sense it. Actually, after he charged all the way over and opened up a path, it was equivalent to setting the coordinates. At that time, he could casually teleport over here, which was quite convenient. This meant that wherever he went, it was equivalent to opening up a territory, and he could teleport over at will. Places that he hadn't been to before, he could only fly over obediently. While he was flying, there were quite a number of Empyreans constantly knocking on the barrier. No matter how they attacked, they didn't cause any damage to the barrier. What in the world is going on here? A newly emerged divine realm would have this kind of barrier. It's indeed very strange. This barrier is still unbreakable. This daddy already used all of my strength, why didn't it have any effect at all? Me too, I used all of my strength. Originally thought that I could snatch some cores, or some resources, or something. Who knew that I can't even go in? Forget about you guys, that batch at the side has already attacked for a long time and didn't have any effect at all, ha ha ha, there were many Empyreans at the periphery here, all coming over in batches. They were like cabbages, rows of Empyreans piled up together, attacking the barrier frenziedly. After they knew that a new divine realm came out, they inquired a little and knew that it was a divine realm without any background. They immediately flew over to snatch it. Who knew that flying over and attacking for so long, there was no effect at all? It could not be broken no matter how they hit. Damn it, how can this kind of situation happen? This divine realm annihilated the faction that I bet on, I have to annihilate them no matter what. But we can't even go in now. Attacking with all of our strength is useless. Looks like we need our Lord's celestial deity to personally take action. If they take action, it won't be something that can be easily resolved. They were the faction that supported the sacred peak divine realm. They had sent so many powerhouses down to support, but there was no effect at all. Now that they came to annihilate the three realms' divine realm, they realized that they could not enter at all. Not only the sacred peak divine realm's powerhouses, even the myriad heaven divine realm's powerhouses came over and fiercely smashed the barrier, but there was no effect at all. All of them were looking for ways to break it, such as finding their domain lord level powerhouses. There might be a chance. As for their cultivations, they were generally at the middle heavenly venerable level. There were still relatively few upper heavenly venerables. Even in the grade 4 divine realm, upper heavenly venerables were still relatively rare existences, and their status was extremely high. Lower heavenly venerables were cabbages, but upper heavenly venerables were not cabbages. They were still powerhouses that stood at the peak. Under their frenzied attacks, the effect was negligible, and they could only give up in the end. Only the faction that came for revenge remained here, wanting to break this barrier. If it really did not work, they could only choose to find powerhouses. While thinking about how to break it, Tianyun flew at full speed. After flying for a full week, he finally reached the periphery. It had to be said that this place was quite spacious. With the support of the Kuan-Peng bloodline, he could still fly for a week. Chapter 14:21. These Empyreans stared at each other helplessly, not knowing what to do. Some went back to inform their region lords. With their abilities, they could not break the defense at all. They could only wait here foolishly. When Tianyun saw them staring at each other, he immediately laughed out loud. Fortunately, there was this shield. Otherwise, they would have fallen right away. Looking over, there were not 50 Empyreans surrounding this place, but there were at least 40. This was still just one of the regions. There were still other Empyreans in the other directions. This meant that there were definitely hundreds of Empyreans surrounding the vicinity, wanting to come in and get a share of the loot. Some wanted to dig out the core first. After getting the core, they could leave. A grade 4 level core was still rather precious to them. 1,000 years, Tianyun shook his head. After this 1,000 years, they might face this kind of cruel encirclement. Of course, whether it would become like this or not, it would still depend on Empyrean Vast Empyrean. He swept a glance over and did not see Empyrean Vast Empyrean's figure. Clearly, he did not rush over. Looks like he's not here. Look over there. Tianyun started clearing all the way around the periphery. This way, not only could he move over here at any time, but he could also check whether Empyrean Vast Empyrean came or not. Quickly look, there's a divine lord. It's true. Why is there a divine lord here? Could it be a divine lord from that new divine realm? That's the only possibility. Even we can't break the defense here. How can a mere divine lord possibly break it? That guy, get over here for me. One of the Empyreans shouted at Tianyun, hinting for him to make a trip over. Who knew that Tianyun ignored him and continued sprinting forward, treating him like air. This Empyrean's face immediately turned the color of a pig's liver. He did not expect that his shout was completely useless. Instead, it made the other party run even faster. Damn it, actually not listening to me. That Empyrean was flustered and wished that he could rush over and slap Tianyun to death. But he could not go over at all. Heh, he's inside this shield. What can you do? The Empyrean at the side shook his head and smiled. They couldn't break him no matter what they did. So what if he was disobedient? What could they do to him? It's all because of this damned shield. I don't even know how I got out. This should have never happened in the past. Why is there an exception this time? I don't know. Maybe it will disappear in a few days. That's very possible. Then I'll wait here for a year, or even a few years. I don't believe that this shield won't disappear. When the time comes, I'll definitely crush that brat to death. How dare he ignore me? The Empyreans all chose to wait, not wanting to miss this opportunity. Such a big fat sheep was right in front of them, but they couldn't catch it or eat it. This made them extremely unhappy. Although they were unhappy, those who had the patience to continue staying here, and those who didn't could only choose to leave. Yi Tianyun continued to sweep through the area. Soon, he passed through a large area, but he still didn't see vast Empyrean. He had seen Empyrean vast expanses appearance before, so he naturally wouldn't forget it. Although it was a phantom image, at least it looked real. Maybe Master's injuries are more serious, and he can't make it in time for the time being. Yi Tianyun understood this. If he really couldn't make it in time, there was no need to be so anxious. Anyway, he had a shield here, and no one could enter. There was no need to worry at all. When he wanted to continue going around, a few familiar figures appeared in front of him. Without a doubt, it was Empyrean Jian Si and the others. They were all rushing over here. In addition to them, there was also an extremely familiar powerhouse. It was that vast Empyrean. Vast Empyrean didn't seem to have any injuries on his appearance. He was the same as before, without any changes. However, when he took a look, he was immediately shocked by the data transmitted over. The great Devas has the strength of a lower heavenly god, His master broke through to the heavenly god realm. He didn't expect that after that tragic battle, not only did his cultivation not drop, but his cultivation successfully broke through to the heavenly god realm. The heavenly god realm was above the Empyrean realm. After reaching the heavenly god realm, it was a relatively powerful level. Even if they weren't at the level of an area lord, they were at least at the level of a powerful elder. After all, the heavenly god realm was still divided into 3 levels. There were very powerful heavenly gods in the grade 4 god realm. Therefore, in their eyes, Empyreans were still existences that belonged to ants. The wider the world, the more different the levels of cultivation. Yi Tianyun was already used to this. However, now that he saw the power of a heavenly god, he was very shocked. Especially that number, it made his eyes almost pop out, 89 billion star power points. This was still under normal circumstances. When it exploded out, it didn't even exceed 100 billion, or even hundreds of billions. Thinking back to the previous middle-level Empyrean, the combat power that erupted out was about 20 billion. After reaching the heavenly god realm, just under normal circumstances, it was 80 billion. It was really shocking. Sure enough, the further one went, the greater the jump. Previously, it jumped hundreds of thousands, millions. Later, it jumped over hundreds of millions. After the data was changed, it still broke the terrifying level of 100 million. However, this was inevitable. The further one went, the stronger they became. It was impossible for it to become weaker. The number looked really explosive, and it was a little provocative. Now, they were all staying outside the shield and couldn't enter. Obviously, they were blocked by the shield and couldn't enter at all. However, they didn't try to force their way in. Instead, they stayed outside and watched. Its little junior brother. Empyrean Sortzi's eyes were sharp, and he quickly saw Yi Tianyun and immediately waved at him. Yi Tianyun quickly flew over and said respectfully, "Greetings, Master, Senior Brother Li Tian, Senior Brother Long Ming, and Senior Brother Sortzi." The great Devas sized him up and said with satisfaction, "Not bad, not bad. To be able to rush up like this, you're really a genius. When they told me, I really didn't believe it. Now that I've seen it, I'm really surprised. I didn't expect to be able to receive such a disciple." It's a great blessing for me. The great Devas didn't have arrogance. Instead, he was quite happy. Such amazing talent, and such an amazing battle record. How could he not feel happy and lucky? If Yi Tianyun became the disciple of another Empyrean, it wouldn't be his turn. Master, if it wasn't for Master's guidance, how could this disciple have such achievements? Yi Tianyun smiled and didn't forget to flatter Master. Chapter 1422. Yi Tianyun couldn't help but smile at vast heavenly God's personality, and he felt very close to him. He didn't have that kind of utilitarian nature, let alone that kind of arrogance. He was the same as the phantom he had seen before, there was no change. Master, don't be modest. You have helped me a lot. This was true. The things that the great Devas had left him before were all quite precious. They had helped him a lot, especially those martial arts and the power of a celestial venerable, which were of great help to him. However, he had to admit that he had indeed relied on his own ability to get to this step. The great Devas said so. There were so many unnamed disciples. He was basically the only one who could reach Yi Tianyun's achievements. This had already shown that the great Devas only played a supporting role. Whether he could become a celestial venerable or not depended on himself. Originally, he had to rely on himself. The great Devas had already said at the beginning. Alright, stop being so talkative. You haven't officially become my disciple. If you flatter me so much now, how are you going to flatter me in the future? The great Devas shifted his gaze to the shield and wondered, speaking of which, what is this thing that can actually block us from going in? I remember that this kind of situation has never happened in the new divine realm. That's right, we've never seen something like this before. It's blocking our way. Although we don't know what it is, we checked it a little. It seems that we can't break it with our ability. The so-called check by Heavenly Venerable Sword Judge and the others was naturally smashing it a few times to test the feeling. After smashing it a few times, if it still couldn't be broken, then they would not continue to try. The main thing was that this territory belonged to Yi Tianyun. If it was smashed, it would be troublesome. Actually, I don't know either. I only discovered it when I came over. Yi Tianyun casually made up an excuse. He would not tell them the truth. He could not say that it was a gift for completing the main mission, right? Of course, he could not say this out loud. Even Shi Shuayan did not dare to say it out loud. Some things were best left unsaid. It was fine as long as only he knew it. There was no need to confess everything. Especially these more important secrets, no one could tell anyone else. So it's like this. It seems like the other Empyreans are not going. Even Master is unable to destroy it. Heavenly Venerable Sword Sea sighed and said, Master's cultivation has already broken through to the level of heavenly deity, but he still can't destroy this place. Of course, he didn't use his full strength. After all, if this was done by you, wouldn't it be troublesome if you destroyed it? How is that possible? If we could make something like that, who would we be afraid of? Yi Tianyun said respectfully to the great Devas, speaking of which, congratulations on advancing your cultivation to the heavenly god level. Ha ha ha, this is indeed worthy of congratulations. Master didn't expect that I would really make a breakthrough. I had been stuck at the late Upper Empyrean realm for a long time, but after fighting with that Empyrean death god, I smoothly made a breakthrough. After the breakthrough, my injuries recovered quickly. The great Devas's eyes flickered. It's a pity that Heavenly Venerate God-Killer is already dead. Otherwise, I would have killed him myself. If he knew that my cultivation didn't regress, but advanced instead, I think he would be angered to death even if he came back to life. The great Devas laughed heartily again. The other disciples laughed as well. It was indeed a joyous occasion that their master could successfully break through. He had been stuck at the late Upper Empyrean realm for a long time, and he finally succeeded in breaking through to the heavenly god level, becoming an almighty. It seems like we can't enter here. Maybe it's to give you special treatment. As for what the heavens have arranged, we don't know. The great Devis shook his head and said, if that's the case, we won't go in. We just came back and immediately rushed over with Master. Even if it's not the first batch, it's at least the second batch. This place is still quite far. After rushing over, we found that many Empyreans were stopped. We tried a little, but didn't try much, said Empyrean sword ruler at the side. Tianyun nodded. He was very touched by this. It seemed that after knowing, he immediately rushed over. This should be able to enter. You guys can't enter, but I should be able to bring you in. Tianyun walked over and easily passed through the barrier. With a wave of his hand, energy enveloped them, and he brought them in. You can really enter. Isn't the heavens too kind to you guys? You can control this barrier. Empyrean sword ruler and the others were stunned. Even the great Devis was stunned. I just tried it. I didn't expect it to work. Tianyun shrugged his shoulders. I believe that senior brothers know how tough this thing is. We just came up, so it's naturally impossible for us to make it. But I guess that since it's a barrier, it should be protecting us. I gave it a try, and I didn't expect it to work. His explanation was reasonable, and they all believed him. They felt that it was really so. Even heavenly gods couldn't break such a tough barrier. How could Tianyun make it? Now we don't need to worry about anything. We ran all the way here. I just don't know how long it can last. If it's only a few months, it'll be too short. Empyrean sword ruler enviously said. I'm not sure about that. We can only take it one step at a time. At least there's protection. Tianyun smiled. Of course he knew how long it could last. It was 1,000 years. Yes, indeed. At least it'll be safer in the short term. The great Devis smiled. Other than protecting the three realms God realm, I'm also here for the apprenticeship ceremony. Let me ask you again. Are you willing to become a disciple of the vast God sect? Disciple is willing. Tianyun half knelt in the void. He was very willing to become a disciple of the vast God sect. All right. Master will accept you as a personal disciple and impart all martial arts to you. You need to do two things. The first is to never betray the vast God sect. The second is to never embarrass the vast God sect. The vast God's words were sonorous and forceful. Other than that, there's nothing else I can say. Tianyun was startled. These rules were really simple. He didn't say anything else. The rules are so simple. Tianyun was stunned. Sigh. Our vast God sect isn't big, but we have quite a bit of freedom. What rules can there be? As long as we don't betray and are loyal to the vast God sect, what rules can there be? We don't like rules at all. Empyrean sword ruler and the others grinned. Freedom was the key. Chapter 1423. The simple apprenticeship ceremony ended just like that. There weren't too many rules and regulations. Everything was so simple. As for a greeting gift, I don't have anything good to offer. When you break through to the heavenly venerable realm, I will give you a greeting gift. The great Devis smiled. Hee, junior brother, this greeting gift will definitely satisfy you. Under normal circumstances, only heavenly venerables can become master's disciple, but you are an exception. Therefore, I can't give you a greeting gift. You have to work harder and break through to the heavenly venerable realm. Heavenly venerable Jian Si smiled. Although your overall strength is at the level of a heavenly venerable, that place requires the strength of a heavenly venerable to enter. Even master can't bring you in. Tianyun narrowed his eyes and immediately grasped the message. So it was to bring him to a special place. This wasn't surprising. After breaking through to the heavenly venerable realm, many situations depended on one's own ability. For example, heavenly venerable spiritual treasures were very good, and most of them were refined by oneself. The great Devis could provide materials, but these couldn't be considered greeting gifts. I'm looking forward to this. Tianyun smiled. Cough cough, apart from that, there's another thing. Is your force willing to join my vastness god sect? The great Devis became serious. Tianyun's words must have been conveyed by Heavenly Venerable Jian Si and the others. However, the great Devis still had to ask once. At the same time, he didn't force it. With the great Devis's cultivation, it wouldn't be a problem to crush Tianyun. He could even replace him, but he didn't do so. Just this little bit of respect was enough for Tianyun to choose to join the vastness god sect. Disciple is willing. Tianyun agreed without hesitation. Good, good, good. The great Devis was very excited. Then Master will announce to the public that the Three Realms God Realm is under the protection of the vastness god sect. Whoever dares to touch the Three Realms God Realm is equivalent to going against the vastness god sect. Speaking of which, what's the scale of the vastness god sect like? Tianyun suddenly asked. Once this topic came out, the entire atmosphere became quiet. The great Devis's expression became a little awkward. The other three senior brothers were the same. Tianyun knew that he had said something wrong. He had heard that the vast divine sect was actually a bit shabby, but he didn't know how shabby it was. Little junior brother, we have a total of 5 official disciples of the vast god sect, including you. I've already mentioned this before. As for in-name disciples, there are quite a few of them. It's just that none of them have become celestial lords, so it's only natural that there are fewer of them. Celestial Lord Sword Judge said awkwardly. Does that mean that there are only 5 of us in the vast divine sect? Tianyun asked in shock. Including Master, there are 6 of us in total. Sword C Celestial Venerable gave him a look, indicating that it was enough for him to know and not read it out loud. Ahem, it's nothing. My requirements are a little strict, but this is the only way to select outstanding disciples. The great Devis shook his head. It was obvious that he was helpless. The main reason was that some people who broke through to the Empyrean realm didn't come to find him. Who would be willing to join this broken and vast divine sect with so few people and no fixed faction? But now, someone had really joined. It was Tianyun. Tianyun immediately felt a little sad. In that case, it didn't seem meaningful for the vast divine sect to announce to the outside world that the 3 realms were under their protection. Why don't we move the vast divine sect here? Tianyun asked tentatively. No. The great Devis said in a deep voice, do you think I'll worry about not having enough power to transfer? That's not it, not to mention becoming a heavenly god, just being a late-stage upper heavenly venerable was enough for him to join any power. At the same time, he could also reach a very high position. Especially now, he could even become an elder with astonishing power. But he didn't do so. He still maintained the desolate vast divine sect. His purpose made Tianyun remember what Sword Ruler said before. He said that the great Devis had a conflict with the previous faction and now came out to establish a sect, seemingly wanting to prove something. Thus, he was urgently needed to join in to prove that the great Devis's decision was correct. Celestial Venerable Sword C repeatedly signaled him with his eyes, signaling him to stop talking. This time, Tianyun obediently shut up and didn't say anything. There's no need to say any more. You'll know when the time comes. The great Devis said in a deep voice, I'll let you know that your choice isn't wrong. He didn't say much, so they naturally wouldn't ask. Then, Master, do you want to come over to our place now? Tianyun immediately changed the topic. Of course. I originally came here to oversee this place. Other than that, I'll give you some pointers on the situation here. You've just arrived here, so there are many things you need to do. We can help you with many things. The great Devis recovered his smile. Then, please give us more pointers, Master. Tianyun said respectfully. Shortly after, they recovered their composure. Under Tianyun's lead, they swept everything in a frenzy. With so many heavenly venerables, they swept away the rubble along the way. Large areas were cleared. If they were constantly helping, the speed of clearing would definitely increase by dozens of times. Especially the power of the great Devis. With a light wave of his hand, large areas were cleared. His efficiency was dozens of times higher than theirs. Tianyun was speechless. Although he knew that heavenly gods were very strong, he didn't expect them to be so heaven-defying. With a flick of a finger, everything turned into ashes. Since they were going to the three realms for a stroll, they naturally helped to clear the rubble along the way. Along the way, a large area was cleared. When they arrived at the three realms, they saw that the area was expanding outwards in an orderly manner. The major planets were continuously being developed. The divine spirit race had carved God's seals on these planets. This way, it would be easier to mine and teleport over. Little by little, it was relatively safe. When they came over and saw this, they were all shocked. "This is your force?" The great Devis said in shock. "Yes, it's all my force." "May I know what pointers Master has for us?" Tianyun asked. "What pointers do I need to give?" The great Devis said in shock, "Everything is set up so perfectly. The management is so perfect. What need is there for me to interfere? Looking at this environment, I suspect that you've been to the grade 4 God realm before. Otherwise, how could you be so familiar with it?" "No, we've never been to the grade 4 God realm before. We've just been rolling around in Fanyu, so we're more familiar with this area." Tianyun's tone was full of pride. No one in Fanyu was willing to open up new lands. However, they were able to open up a good environment. Moreover, everything was arranged in an orderly manner. Everything was developed steadily and flawlessly. Chapter 1424. What Tianyun was most proud of was the fact that the force he was managing could achieve such an achievement in such a short time. It was definitely unique in the outer divine realms, especially since many of his subordinates were very capable in management. This was why he was at ease leaving it to them. Their solutions were definitely more reasonable and perfect than his. From the praise of the vast Empyrean God, one could tell how outstanding this group of people was. If even a heavenly god thought so, what else was there to say? The great Devis did not judge them based on their cultivation, but on their management. He had retired from a large force and knew the advantages of a large force in terms of management. Thus, he wanted to guide them in this aspect. Who knew that the three realms' divine realm was so perfect? If they were a little stronger, they could really develop by leaps and bounds. "Oh, there's a divine spirit clan." The great Devis's eyes lit up. "Yes, this disciple saved them a long time ago. Now, they are joining my force and working hard together." Tianyun did not hide anything. The great Devis saw through all of this. The Divine Spirit Clan. They were originally all-powerful in the inner divine realm, but now they have become a declining clan. I don't even know where they are now. The great Devis shook his head and sighed. What? The Divine Spirit Clan that was established here is gone. Tianyun was shocked. Of course, the Divine Spirit Clan was very good, but in the face of the suppression of an extremely powerful force, they can only decline. The great Devis sighed. Suppression of an extremely powerful force? Tianyun was stunned. What kind of force? A 5th grade God Realm force. The great Devis said simply and crudely. A 5th grade God Realm force? Tianyun held his breath. He did not know what the standard of a 5th grade God Realm was, but judging from the standard of a 4th grade God Realm, it was already quite terrifying. Yes, a 5th grade God Realm force. Everything originates from the existence of the strongest. The great Devis shook his head. Ultimate position. Tianyun was quite surprised by this. There were too many unsolved mysteries. That's right, we call them God Emperors after breaking through to the heavenly God realm. A supreme existence, one and only in the divine realm. The great Devas's eyes were filled with yearning, but he was afraid that he would not be able to reach this level. God Emperor. Not to mention Tianyun, even Heavenly Lord Sword C and the others couldn't help but be fascinated. Celestial emperors were above heavenly gods. They were the strongest existences in the celestial realm, and there was only one of them in the entire celestial realm. This meant that whoever became the God Emperor would be the king of the God realm. Whoever dared to defy him would be directly suppressed. Master, are you saying that in order to break through to the God Emperor realm, there were almighty experts in Grade 5 God domain forces who would go on a rampage to plunder resources and bloodlines? Tianyun guessed. That's right. A Grade 4 God realm expert might seem powerful, but to a Grade 5 God realm expert, it's no different from slaughtering dogs. The great Devas smiled faintly. Of course, most Grade 5 God domains wouldn't do that, and they wouldn't care about it. The last battle was just an exception. It won't happen this time. Naturally, at that time, it wasn't only the godly spirit race. Many other powers were almost wiped out as well. Basically, the cards were reshuffled. The boundlessly vast heavenly deity sighed. A few moments ago, they were still extremely glorious, but now, they were in decline. Tianyun nodded and didn't say much. He originally thought that there would be forces from the God Spirit clan here, so that it would be easy for the two clans to contact each other. It seemed that it was impossible now. But after thinking about it carefully, he realized that it was true. If there was a powerful God Spirit clan above, they would have sent people down to pick them up, or strengthened the management of the forces. Now, no one was sent down, allowing the God Spirit clan in the outer divine realms to decline. It meant that this place was also declining. Just as he was about to continue his research, he suddenly felt a powerful force constantly battering against the barrier, wave after wave. His expression changed. It was obvious that someone had sent a powerhouse over. The powerhouse was madly attacking the barrier, trying to break it. Little junior brother, what's wrong? They immediately noticed that something was wrong with Tianyun. I feel someone attacking the barrier here, trying to break it. Tianyun didn't hide it. He wouldn't hide it. You can still sense it. They were a little surprised. He could still sense it from so far away. I can sense it a little. I guess they think I'm a region lord, so they let me sense it a little more, Tianyun said with a smile. It can be so magical. Then let's go and take a look. The great Devas didn't say much. The world was big, and there were all kinds of strange things. Immediately after, they flew over, clearing the rocks along the way. With the great Devas leading the way, their speed was definitely increased to the extreme. It only took them less than half a day to reach their destination. As soon as they arrived, Tianyun immediately felt a terrifying energy wave, constantly attacking from the front. It passed through the invincible barrier and was released toward them. Since they were all blocked, all he could feel was a gust of wind, and he didn't feel much. A heavenly god. Tianyun looked up and immediately saw a heavenly god madly attacking the barrier, smashing it again and again, but he couldn't break it. It didn't even crack it. The person in front of them was indeed a heavenly god. His cultivation was also at the lower heavenly god level. He wasn't much stronger than the great Devas. In terms of overall strength, the great Devas was slightly stronger, mainly because the great Devas had just broken through not long ago. If he continued to consolidate his strength, he would definitely surpass the heavenly god in front of them. It's heavenly god wooing from the flowing wind god realm. He supports the sacred peak god realm of the outer god realm. He used all his strength, but it didn't break at all. This barrier is really strong. The great Devas was shocked after seeing it. The other Empyreans were also like this, all of them deeply shaken. This barrier was just too sturdy. Even a heavenly god couldn't break it. What the hell is this? It can't be broken at all. Who set it up here? Heavenly God Wuing continued to attack for a while, but he couldn't break it at all. After wiping his sweat, his eyes were full of disbelief. This is too strong. I used all my strength, but I couldn't break it at all. Heavenly God Wuing, how about we work together? At this time, another heavenly god appeared beside him. Heavenly God Jing Sun. Heavenly God Wuing narrowed his eyes. Heavenly God Jing Sun was a supporter of the myriad heaven sacred realm. They were considered enemies, but now they were talking about working together. Chapter 1425. Facing Heavenly God Jing Sun, Heavenly God Wuing chose to nod in the end. He had used all his strength and still could not break this barrier, so he could only choose to cooperate with Heavenly God Jing Sun. He definitely did not want to cooperate with Heavenly God Jing Sun, and Heavenly God Jing Sun also did not want to cooperate with Heavenly God Wuing. However, they could not break the barrier now, so they could only choose to cooperate. They hated the three realms celestial realm to the core, and their relationship was not very good. They had to at least destroy the three realms celestial realm first before making any plans. Okay, I agree to cooperate with you. After we break the barrier, we will focus on destroying the three realms celestial realm first, and then we will talk about other things. Heavenly God Wuing said in a deep voice. Of course, we will definitely focus on destroying the three realms celestial realm first. Heavenly God Jing Sun shifted his gaze inside and saw only a pile of rubble. Immediately, the two of them began to unleash their strongest power. The power of the heavenly gods gushed out and was released in all directions. The heavenly venerables at the side all dodged, not daring to get close in case they were affected. Then, the two of them aimed at one point of the barrier and attacked fiercely at the same time. Their powers quickly mixed together and condensed into their strongest move. When the two heavenly gods' moves erupted, the terrifying power even made the space of the fourth grade celestial realm show signs of collapsing. I hope it will not be broken. Yi Tianyun and the others watched the show from inside and did not immediately go out to stop them. Originally, the great Devis wanted to go out to stop them, but he stopped him. Mainly, he wanted to see if this invincible barrier was really invincible. If it was broken, he would have to change the plan that he had set before. Boom! The terrifying power came crashing down, but the thick barrier was not deformed at all. It only trembled slightly, and the terrifying power was dispersed. There was not a single crack on the barrier. It was completely intact. Not only was it completely intact, but the two heavenly gods were also sent flying, and the recoil force made them a little dizzy. Unfortunately, this power was not completely reflected, or they would have been seriously injured. It was ridiculous to think that they were seriously injured by their strongest move. Useless. The two of them were dumbfounded. The two heavenly gods' attacks had no effect at all. They believed that their explosive strength was not weak. Even a very strong Empyrean spirit treasure would be smashed apart by a single punch. But now, it didn't have any effect at all. It only caused a slight fluctuation. This was just too terrifying, causing all of them to be stupefied, including the vast heavenly deity and the others. I don't believe it. It's impossible that I can't break it open. They immediately continued to attack madly, smashing the same place repeatedly. They wanted to achieve the effect of destruction by continuously attacking the same place. In the end, after a few fierce attacks, there was no effect at all. However, they didn't stop and continued to attack. Each of them gave it their all and their combat power soared to the level of 100 billion astral power. However, they still couldn't break open a single crack. This situation completely changed their views. It's really tough. Fortunately, we didn't smash it, otherwise we would have wasted our efforts. Heavenly Premier Sword Lord and the others had wanted to rush out to stop the barrier from being smashed apart. These barriers could only be maintained for a period of time. It would be bad if they were destroyed prematurely. Now that it had been smashed for a period of time, there was not a single mark left on it. Instead, they were extremely surprised. It could only be said that the heavens were too kind to the god realm of the three realms. As expected of an invincible barrier. It's really invincible. Tianyun gasped, feeling very surprised. It seemed that there was really nothing to worry about now. After smashing for a few days, they finally stopped. The energy in their bodies was basically exhausted, so they had no choice but to stop. Damn it. After smashing for so long, there's no effect at all. How is this thing formed? Could it be that the heavens really put it here? They had strange expressions. This was the only conclusion they could come to. They absolutely didn't believe that a newly ascended god realm would have this kind of ability. In addition, even they couldn't do it. How could a mere new god realm have such a standard? This is the only possibility. Their expressions were ugly. They thought that they would definitely succeed, but now it seemed that there was no effect at all. According to this, they could either give up or continue to recruit people to join forces and smash it. However, if it was really the heavens who set up the formation, not to mention finding people, it would be useless even if they continued to find a group of powerhouses. The heavens were not the power of the heavenly Tao. The power of the heavenly Tao was only a representative of one level. Their cultivation was very strong, but didn't they still need to go through the heavenly tribulation? Even if the heavenly tribulation was created by the heavens, it could still strike them to death. Therefore, they were a little afraid and didn't dare to act recklessly. Not going to continue smashing. At this time, the great Devis and the others flew out. There was a hint of mockery in his tone. Vast heavenly venerate. No, you have broken through to the heavenly god realm. Heavenly deity Jing Sun and the others looked at the great Devis who came out and said in surprise, "How did you get in?" Compared to this breakthrough in cultivation, what shocked them the most was how the vast Empyrean god was able to enter. They couldn't break it, so how could the great Devis get in? How I got in is none of your business. But let me make it clear today. The three realms god realm is my force. From today onwards, the three realms god realm will be under the protection of the vast heavenly sect. Whoever dares to attack the three realms god realm will have to go against the vast heavenly sect. The great Devis said solemnly, when the time comes, we will go all out to suppress them. We will absolutely not compromise. Towards the end, his tone was extremely stern, as if he was a king who couldn't be violated. They were stunned. They didn't expect that there would be such a level of relationship. The great Devis is talking big. If it was in the past, we would be a little afraid. But now that you have come out from the heavenly cultivation god realm, the meaning is different. Do you think you are still relying on the heavenly cultivation god realm? Heavenly deity Jing Sun's tone was full of mockery. He wasn't afraid of the great Devis at all. The great Devis had broken through to the heavenly god realm, but no matter what, he was just one person. They had many experts. I can still make a name for myself without relying on the heavenly cultivation god realm. If you don't believe me, then come and try. Of course, you have to destroy this protection first. The great Devis waved his hand. Let's go. Then, they left, leaving heavenly deity Jing Sun and the others behind. This guy is too arrogant. Does he think he is still staying in the heavenly cultivation god realm? Let's continue to attack this protection. I don't believe we can't break it. They were furious. Even if they wanted to cause trouble, they had to break this layer of protection first. Then, they continued to attack fiercely, venting their anger. Tianyun and the others didn't hurry to leave. Instead, they hid at the side and observed the situation. The heavenly cultivation god realm. Chapter 1426. Tianyun and the others hid on the side and watched. Although the great Devis said so, they still had to observe the situation to avoid any accidents. However, after watching for a while, the defense was unbreakable. No matter how they attacked, there was no damage at all. This made them sigh. This thing was too sturdy. They didn't know what kind of strength was needed to break through it. It looks like we can't break through it. We'll guard here for a while. If there are no problems, we won't stay here any longer. The great Devis didn't want to control this place. It was just like Empyrean Swordsea and the others said. The vast Empyrean god did not have such intentions. He just wanted to prove himself. This was probably related to the heavenly god realm. It looks like we need to investigate this heaven-cultivating god realm. Yi Tianyun nodded. He was a bit interested in his master's influence. After staying for a while, they returned to the three realms to rest. In fact, they only needed to sit for a while before they joined the team to destroy the rocks. With them joining, everything was a lot easier. It wasn't just them. Even the great Devis personally took action. This made Yi Tianyun feel a bit embarrassed. Letting a celestial do the work of clearing the rocks was too embarrassing. It was like letting your master do the work of sweeping the floor. How could it be embarrassing? However, the great Devis didn't mind at all. He was in a good mood. Although he wasn't personally teaching them, they were still his disciples. Not only was their talent amazing, but they could also bring him such honor. How could he not be happy? Anyway, there was nothing to do. They couldn't stay here forever. While they were at it, they helped strengthen the defense and cleared the rocks. The great Devis's divine inscriber level wasn't low. He had reached the 6th grade, which was quite amazing. Thus, with his help, all aspects of the divine seals had improved considerably. The god spirit race's attainments in divine seals were good, but their cultivation was too low. If their cultivation was too low, their grade couldn't be increased. Some required a lot of energy to carve. Therefore, they needed to increase their own level. After all, the strongest member of the divine spirit race was only a half-step heavenly venerable. He hadn't even become a heavenly venerable yet. If he could make a breakthrough, his attainments in this aspect would definitely reach a whole new level. At present, it seemed that Empyreans would soon appear. With such an excellent cultivation environment, breaking through wouldn't be too much of a problem. With the help of so many experts, the speed of clearing increased greatly. However, it would still take a long time before they could finish clearing everything. The god territory assigned to him couldn't be small. Even with Yi Tianyun's cultivation, it would take him a few days to fly to the edge. Chapter 1427. Yi Tianyun left with the great Devis. After all, there wasn't much point in staying here. There was a powerful barrier here that even heavenly gods couldn't break. It could last for thousands of years, so there was nothing to worry about. If something really happened, they could teleport back. The teleportation god stone was too convenient. There was no need to worry about not being able to return. It could be used in the outer divine realm, and it could be used in the inner divine realm. There was no difference. When Shi Shuayun and the others knew that Yi Tianyun was leaving, they didn't say anything. They have always supported Yi Tianyun unconditionally in everything he does. Therefore, Yi Tianyun had always been very touched. After all, they trusted him unconditionally. He definitely couldn't let them down. When the great Devis left with Yi Tianyun, they were immediately seen by many people. They were quickly reported, but they didn't dare to stop them. There was a heavenly god here. Who would dare to stop them? They wouldn't even have time to run, let alone stop them. News has come back. The boundless heavenly deity has come out. Should we stop them? Stop my ass. What's the use of stopping them? We can't get in. But how did they get in? Did they get let in by someone from inside? That's possible. Unless we catch one of them and use it to bring us in. That's not a problem. According to the news, one of them is only a divine lord. He looks unfamiliar. He's definitely not from the vast divine sect. After all, they only accept heavenly masters. Then find a chance to catch that kid and lead the way for us. One by one, the divine realms turned their attention to Yi Tianyun. They all wanted to catch him and threaten him to lead them into the divine realm of the three realms. Soon, they sent people out to follow Yi Tianyun. They wanted to catch him and threaten him to lead them into the divine realm of the three realms. The great Devis didn't think too much. He summoned an Empyrean spirit ship and flew towards his territory. Under such circumstances, speed was the fastest. Among Empyrean cultivators, besides Empyrean spirit treasures, there were also Empyrean weapons. It was extremely difficult to create, and it required a very strong ability. Those who were rich would carry several Empyrean level weapons, while those who were poor could only use Empyrean spirit treasures. Empyrean spirit treasures were the most practical and the cheapest. Although their effects weren't the strongest, if they were nurtured properly, their grade wouldn't be low. But under normal circumstances, Empyrean level treasures were the strongest and most effective existences. Of course, the price was the highest. The higher the grade, the more shocking the price. In terms of grade, it was low, mid, and upper grade. It was no different from before. The spirit ship that the great Devis used now was only a low-grade spirit ship. Although it was on a completely different level, its speed was astonishing. It was much faster than his 10,000 gods pagoda. They were not on the same level. This might have something to do with cultivation, but among those of the same cultivation level, he was definitely far ahead. After all, this thing was more specialized, and the materials used were rarer than Empyrean spirit treasures. Under the eruption of power, it completely shuttled through the void, passing through a large region in the blink of an eye. It was definitely a divine tool for traveling. It would take at most several hours to pass through a divine domain. It was quite terrifying. No wonder they rushed over so quickly. The speed of passing through this thing was still very fast. The great Devis definitely wasn't poor, otherwise he wouldn't have such a spirit ship. Although the speed was amazing, it still took more than a week to reach the vast divine sect. This was enough to prove how far this distance was. Along the way, Yi Tianyun saw many divine domains. Many of the planets here were already withered and had no resources at all. They looked very miserable. Are all these divine domains abandoned? Yi Tianyun asked as he saw so many planets being abandoned. He knew that the situation here was very bad. There were many resources, but there would also be a day when they were used up. More or less. Time is long, and it is impossible for all divine domains to always prosper. There will always be a time when they decline. However, these seemingly abandoned divine domains might have good opportunities, Empyrean Sword Ruler explained from the side. Empyrean Force and the others weren't good at speaking. They weren't as lively as Empyrean Sword Ruler. However, if they were asked, they would basically answer without any problems. Similar to Inheritance Ruins? Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. It seemed that these places weren't rare. More or less. Just casually look around and you might even find some treasures. This was the result of the War of God Emperors. Whether it was grade 4 or grade 5 divine domains, many of them were quickly destroyed. Many of them were filled with danger, but they were also accompanied by many opportunities. If you don't have formidable strength and casually wander around, only death awaits you. Some places seem peaceful, but they are filled with the energy of powerhouses. Once they sweep over, you will die if you aren't careful. Empyrean Sword Ruler smiled, but his eyes were filled with fear. It was clear that he had sensed the danger. So it's like that. Yi Tianyun nodded. He understood the basic situation. In the War of God Emperors, in order to have a God Emperor appear on his side, they crazily plundered resources and bloodlines. As a result, many treasures were left behind. At the same time, a lot of dangerous energy was also left behind. Hence, along the way, they could see many broken planets. All of them were traces of the past. As it was too dangerous, they usually targeted newly ascended forces, which were much safer. As they chatted, they finally arrived at the Myriad World's divine domain. A very domineering name. This place was indeed divided into different worlds of different sizes. It was quite peculiar. When Yi Tianyun was first brought in, he saw many space-time gates instead of planets. It was quite peculiar. Some of the space-time gates in front of him were blocked by guards, while others were unguarded. When the great Devis came to an empty area, he waved his hand, and a space-time gate appeared in front of him. Then, he followed them in. After entering, it quickly closed up. After entering, what came into view was a vast and boundless world. The key was that there were space-time gates of different sizes inside, and no one knew where they led to. There were also countless zigzagging walkways here, which were clearly similar to the heavenly sovereign path. Below, there were many cultivators walking forward step by step. This stunned him. Didn't they say that there were only a few of them in the vast divine sect? Little junior brother, you're surprised, right? There are indeed only 5 of us in the vast divine sect. These can't even be considered disciples. It's a bit like Fan Yu. Let them climb up step by step, and there are even countless small worlds, small empires, and the like. They climb up from the very beginning. Empyrean Sword Ruler explained, here, we are gods who have been watching over this place, watching them grow. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.